of time.
O'clock.
Well, hey, everybody. What's going on? It's Wednesday night once again, and here we are. I don't know why you guys don't get sick of looking at our faces, you know what I mean? Here we are like 3 times a damn week.
Well, it's gonna be a good show, though.
I think this should be pretty entertaining.
Pretty entertaining.
I've been wanting to do a show. I think somebody recommended this like a while back, because I was like, oh shit, I never even thought of doing a show about that. So I kind of did a little bit of a deep dive on it. But, you know, I think it's going to be, like, pretty interesting. I'm going to say that just right from the outset. You guys know me if you've been around here for any length of time. I'm not one of these big, like, conspiracy theory kind of people. So I think that a lot of the conspiracy theories around Skull and Bones are largely bullshit. I can see where they come from, and I can see why people have these ideas about it, but I don't really know if Skull and Bones is as nefarious as some people make it out to be. You know, but in that, I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by the whole idea of these secret societies.
It's basically a Yale fraternity, basically.
Yeah, well, it's a secret society. I don't feel like the fraternity system. You can be in a fraternity and also be in a secret society. Like, you don't.
It's like the same kind of shit.
It's the same kind of shit. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, I'm fascinated by secret societies, but I think that most secret societies throughout history, because there have been a lot, I kind of feel like most of them are just like a bunch of dudes, usually dudes, like getting together and being like, man, we want to do like some creepy shit and like hang out and freak out the squares or whatever. And so, you know, they kind of just get together because they have similar interests and, you know, maybe want to hang out and do some occult shit and, like, you know what I mean? I don't really think there's anything much to it other than just like like-minded people hanging out together and wanting to do a bit of cosplay and finding it amusing that the kind of stuff that they use is like freaking people out.
Well, I kind of agree, but only partially. Yeah, I think it's blown out of proportion. You know how nefarious it is, but these kind of secret societies are basically kind of like mafias for rich boys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In that case, like I said, I don't think in the sense that I don't think it's a conspiracy theory like Illuminati or nothing like that. But it's just like it's rich people doing rich people shit. Yeah. Which they have been doing since there have been rich people.
When my mother joined the State Department and we moved to Brazil, I moved there as a State Department dependent, and the U.S. government sent me to like the best school in São Paulo, Brazil, for high school and middle school and whatever. But I was only there for the high school one. It was called Escola Graduada de São Paulo, and it was kind of an international baccalaureate high school. And the kids that were in there from all around the world. But all the really rich Brazilian kids were in that school. I mean, like, their dads were presidents, ex-presidents. The kid that would have been king of Brazil had it remained a monarchy. He was in school with me. His name was Luis. He fucking sat right next to me. And he was a dirtbag. Okay, he's a dirtbag.
Not shocking.
Yeah, it'd be like 80 degrees and he's wearing one of a big hand grenade jacket. It's like he's cold and shit, greasy ass hair and shit. He would have been a king of Brazil. And everybody who owned their theaters and their media, like the Santos and Silvio Santos' daughter, I knew her. And I got him in my fucking yearbook. And then the Melos, he ended up becoming president. There was one of the presidents of Brazil was guy I went to school with. He was like a year older than me. His dad ended up becoming president of Brazil for a while, but I think there had been a couple of they were like the Kennedys of Brazil. And he was dating. He dated some movie star for a while. Anyway, he was friends with a fucking Brazilian. I think he dated Xuxa for a while. She was a Brazilian superstar. And then she ended up with one of the Kennedys. So these families were all kind of intertwined. They're the same class.
Well, yeah.
Well, when you're growing up seeing these kids, they're just like any other teenagers. They get into all kinds of trouble, fucking snort cocaine, they do fucking crazy shit, have fucking crazy parties in their mansions, have fucking hookers over.
They probably do crazier shit because they know they'll be able to get away with it.
They can't get in trouble.
Because they're not going to get in trouble.
Man, we'd go out and go down to fucking Rua Augusta, and fucking one time I went there with like 6 dudes from my school. We were all high school seniors, and fucking like 3 hookers followed us back. Now they were the same age as us, but my friends fucking got it on with them, and I was too fucking sick to do anything. I was fucking throwing up in the toilet. And they didn't pay them, so they stole a statue and held it for ransom through their escort agency.
I mean, understandable.
I'd have done the same thing. We were fucking so fucking drunk. And that's the way these rich kids live. And we did that shit in a fucking mansion. All right? and the dude's house, his name was Derek. His name was Derek Walden. No. Walden wasn't his last name. I forgot. But Derek was from the Netherlands. All right? And his dad fucking was running a big corporation in Brazil. Was making something. I don't remember. Cars or car tires or something. I don't fucking remember. Well, these dudes end up going to college. And in a way, they're never really going to belong to any kind of organization like working class kids were, like joining the army.
No,
and becoming a brotherhood. They can't do that. So what they have instead is these fucking little college organizations and secret societies. That's like their version of joining the army. A good one would have been like the one Alex Jones exposed out in California. What the fuck is the name of that thing?
Bohemian Grove.
The Bohemian Grove.
Which they actually made a kind of sideways reference to in the excellent film Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah.
They might have called it that by name, or they might have called it something very similar. I don't remember it exactly.
Bohemian Grove was a summer camp for rich boys and rich dudes. It was an organization to join where you could be kind of with your own kind and share like fraternal brotherhood with and get to know everybody. This is pre-internet, so they're going camping basically. But
Skull and Bones has a similar thing, which we'll talk about.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just giving the background of what they're like. You're going camping, and then in order to make it cooler, you even fucking invite famous people. You know what I mean? You kind of enjoy it. Like, oh yeah, I hung out with Kid Rock. Because Kid Rock's been to Bohemian Grove.
Who wants to hang out with Kid Rock?
He just thought it was lame. You know? And Kid Rock and they also had famous, when you go back in time with Bohemian Grove, they also had like real famous politicians, and you know, Richard Nixon went to it, and on one of the leaked.
No one wants to hang out with Richard Nixon either.
He was actually very popular. All right,
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, he was kind of stiff, but that was
he seems like he would not be any fun.
Yeah, but that was his generation. He was foul-mouthed and shit. Well,
they were all kind of
some of those Nixon tapes released, and he talked about Bohemian Grove. And he's going, my God, you should have seen it. It was the faggiest thing ever. He called it the faggiest thing. And these dudes...
quote, unquote.
Yeah, quote, unquote, the faggiest thing ever, you know. And it was fucking...
Oh, he was into it.
He thought it was fucking queer, that's what he said. It was just a bunch of dudes...
The fact that he said that means he was really into it, and he was trying to, like, pretend that he wasn't.
Stop projecting. he thought it was lame. I'm sure if I'd seen that shit, I thought it was fucking lame, too. It's basically a campsite. And they fucking have escorts show up, male and female, you know what I mean? Because they don't want to fuck each other. It's all dudes. And, you know, these little weaselly fuckers, most of them, you know what I mean? But no, they have escorts show up, staying with them and stuff, and it's like has like a fair, like, or a carnival-like atmosphere, partying, and fucking then they'd have these little workshops, and it's just fucking lame shit. And then they're swearing oaths and allegiances to each other and shit. And it's just like kind of like they're getting to know the other rich boys and making like networks. That's really all it is. And then they got made a network with Kid Rock, or Elvis showed up. For all I know, Elvis really isn't the type of guy to go. I ain't going to that shit. You know, he better like
I can't see Elvis.
No, I'm a king. I don't need to go to that. But Elvis, I think they thought that was lame. How many women are going to be there? I got a show tonight. I can't go.
I'm busy.
I need one of them peanut butter banana sandwiches.
And all your M&Ms.
Yeah, my M&Ms. Yeah,
He eats all.
They got a place where I can park my Cadillac. I ain't staying there all night. I'm not hanging out with these guys. They don't know how to dress. It's very uncool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It is
Allison
very,
thought
it
that
is
shit was
very
uncool.
uncool.
But, so that's the kind of the basic background of what this is. This is fucking rich boy shit.
Yeah.
And it's not that cool. Okay.
Yeah,
No.
it's like, I get the allure of it.
Yeah.
And I think that people project all kind of stuff onto it because it's so secretive, because no one will talk about it.
But they're trying to make it alluring and mysterious.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think that that's kind of like the appeal of it is, I think that they're trying to like pretty just like, ooh, I can't tell you anything about it. It's like, even though they probably didn't do anything.
Yeah, they're putting on robes and doing rituals and shit. But it's just like the same kind of shit that fraternities would do. It's just that they have more money.
Yeah, they're not like sacrificing babies or nothing.
No,
like that.
they'll do things symbolically. You know, like they symbolically burn care.
Yeah, that's a
you know,
Bohemian Grove thing.
Burning a care, which looks like a human sacrifice, you know, and they got these screams and shit. But they're just trying to psych these rich boys up and says, don't worry about anything.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
And they do similar things. Skull and Bones. I mean, Skull and Bones, I will give them props. They have been able to keep most of their shit like under wraps for a very long time, because Skull and Bones has been around for a long time, like more than a century.
Yeah, and this is what
but the thing about it is that some people have said stuff about it like anonymously, which we'll talk about later. But it does seem from what they've said that it seems kind of a similar thing, where it's all just kind of like just very ritualistic, just kind of nothing super nefarious or no black magic or nothing like that, but they're just kind of doing stuff with like occult trappings, but that's symbolic, like more than anything else.
It was fucking goth. That was a fucking goth. It was very goth the way it was. It looked like a damn tomb where their headquarters looks like a fucking...
Well, it's called the Tomb.
It looks like a fucking
the Skull
tomb.
and Bones.
It's got skulls on it and shit. It looks all goth.
It's called the Tomb.
And,
that's what it's called.
But, let's go ahead, it's not a conspiracy that many of the high muckety-mucks in the CIA were a part of that when they were in college.
Some of them were, yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of them. And there were presidents that were a part of that. That was like a Yale thing.
Not many, but yeah, there were some.
It was a Yale thing. And they were kind of like it was kind of like a mafia. If you came out of that, you were supposed to have allegiance to members. There was like above and beyond law.
Yeah, it was like a brotherhood. So like after you got out, like you're supposed to do them a solid, like help them out once you get out.
To a rich boy, that's a big medicine right there. Because they come from very cutthroat schools. The school I was at, fucking cutthroat as fuck. I did well there because I didn't give a shit. And I wasn't dating any of those girls anyway. I was dating regular Brazilian girls that were outside the school. Which meant I had more street cred. You know what I mean? Because I didn't need to date these women. Fuck these girls, But they knew I had girlfriends. But the thing is that... Oh shit, I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, yeah. You got all distracted by your ex-girlfriend, your numerous ex-girlfriends.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about it was big medicine to rich boys because they come from very cutthroat schools, real catty and bitchy. So they can get away from that. Now they're in a little secret society, very similar to the way working class and middle class dudes, what happens to them when they go to the army. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a similar kind of thing.
Man, all my army buddies, man, that I fucking grew up with and shit, fucking, they're talking to me all the time on Facebook. We're sending each other messages, fucking, they're talking, I look at my new wife, okay, yeah, that's the second one, it's just shit like that, what I mean? And
well, at least it's not the seventh one. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but any of those dudes would call me and I'd do them a solid.
Well, yeah.
Even if it was, look, man, some bad shit happened. We can't take this to the law. We have to do something about this. And if
I need to bury a body.
Okay. If you laid out a good case, you know what I mean? If they laid out a good case, it's okay, we got to take care of that.
There's very few people I would, if they called me up and said, hey, I need to bury a body.
Well,
very few people I'd be like,
it wouldn't be that anyway. It'd be more like Alonzo, like, this dude has done some serious evil, we got to get him. It'd be some shit like that.
Okay, I can see that.
It'd be like that. What happened? And I'd have to see the proof. You know what I mean? Well, how do I know this? How do I know you're not fucking setting me up for something? You're my brother and all, but fucking what happened? Maybe you flipped. You don't know.
Well, yeah, you never know. It's been a long time.
Yeah, but the thing is dudes that I came up with, like dudes like Sparks and Chafino and shit, they'd already have all the evidence they needed fucking laid out to show me. They'd do the fucking intel briefing. Talking about, look at this bitch did. And we can't take it to the law because that's what the mafia does. Cops do the same thing. Yeah, some have, especially New York cops. Yeah, they're notorious for that. They know who the bad guy is. They can't do anything about it. They'll fucking take him out like a mob would.
I mean, you can't really blame him, I guess. Tammy says it's not a 13 o'clock show if Tom can't brag about his sex life.
You fucking stop. Who said that shit?
Tammy.
Goddamn, Tammy, you're always trying to peg a motherfucker. Every time I start talking about something, you fucking talk about pegging me. You need a fucking copy of the video and shit.
One day.
She's got booty lust. Booty lust over me. I can't understand that shit. It's a booty like any other booty. There's nothing magical about it. It's just that you just know that I don't want to give it up.
I think your booty is magical.
Yeah, but I don't want to give it up. So these women are always trying to violate.
It grants wishes.
They
Just kidding. It doesn't really.
No.
If it did, I would have like $1 bajillion.
Yeah. I wish it granted wishes. I'd be fucking.
You'd rubbing your own ass.
I need to do houses appearing, fucking boats appearing.
Like, I need an airplane.
I need an airplane.
I want a pony.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, so Papa77 says, "Oh man, no low cut shirt today and no cleavage, lol."
Yeah, she's.
And then, Tammy said, "Yeah, Tom's shirt is really disappointing."
Bitch, hold on, no, it's see-through on the top.
It is see-through on the top.
See-through
You just can't really tell that because it's kind of...
I get a flashlight to light this up, the whole top end see-through. Nipples and everything.
Well, not quite.
If I pull it down.
Well, there you go.
Bit.
Now you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to tell because, like, on my end, like, the thing is kind of small, so I don't know what it looks like big in HD, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Big Dog says Tom in a crop top with Adam Ants on it. Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Big Dog, he might be gay to come up with some imagery of that. He's getting all that homoerotic imagery going on.
I like that idea, though. I like how your mind works.
I'm not saying anything bad about it. You're inspiring a photo shoot. Maybe I get a photo shoot like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. And you could even do, like, how Adam Ant did the makeup in
like Adam
the video,
Ant
like, with the white... Well, it's not... No, like, in the 80s.
I put my fucking head...
Like, with the fucking...
I put a wig on.
The makeup that he did with the white lines and stuff.
I put that fucking long, heavy metal wig on, like Glenn Danzig and shit, man. Fucking watch out.
Yeah, you haven't worn that in a while.
I haven't worn that
it's a little naughty. It needs to be brushed, honestly. Yeah.
Wear that shit to the club, man.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
They'd love it.
Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck is that dude? Conan has showed up.
Yeah, here he is. He's bringing a big axe and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's the axe trap, so you could throw axes over there. Hightower said in Late Night with the Devil they just called it the Grove. Yeah, that's right. I knew that they called it something that I was just like, oh,
talking about Bohemian Grove.
Obviously, they're talking about Bohemian Grove. Yeah.
Which there's a lot of power in Bohemian Grove. If you add up all the fucking living members of it, there's probably pretty influential people there. Are they actively fucking doing shit in the name of Bohemian Grove? Nah.
Yeah, I'm not like a big Like I said, now I'm not saying that like rich people don't get together with other rich people to fuck the rest of us over because they absolutely do.
They're like-minded.
But but I don't think that's a conspiracy necessarily. I just think that's like how natural. Yeah. That's just naturally how rich people work. They do that every time they get together.
They're trying to come up with some kind of scam.
Because all they're trying to do is just trying to get more money for themselves, which necessarily fucks over everyone else.
Yeah, and here's the thing,
That's all.
And I think this is kind of being exposed now. Most of the shit they come up with is some kind of scam. They're gonna use all their fucking media outlets and fucking just whatever to say, oh yeah, you need to do this. This is what this is good for you, or you have to do this. It's moral. And it's just so they can make money, expand their power.
Hightower said we always segue into Tom's booty every time. I don't know. I feel like we mostly segue into my booty.
That happens.
But because every time I get up to go to the bathroom, I feel like he has to make some kind of comment about it.
Trying to turn the camera around and get a shot of it as walking. I'm share. I'm not trying to share.
But like I said,
just being a good neighbor.
I don't think that we've ever talked about your ass granting wishes before. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, like a genie's lantern.
Yeah, like a genie's lamp.
Like a genie's lamp. Yeah.
You just rub on it like that.
I call it a lantern.
And coins pop out. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Makes like a little video game noise.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Hightower said, is Tom's booty a scam too?
Yeah.
It is a scam.
It might be.
I don't think your booty is a scam. Hightower said, yeah, all secret societies are really a scam. This one, I kind of feel like The shit behind this one, I think people are fascinated with this one because here's the thing. Yale has a bunch of secret societies. Skull and Bones is obviously the best known one, and I believe is also the oldest one, but they have a shit ton of them, and the other ones don't really get much play, even though they have some powerful alumni that were in them as well. But I kind of think it's just because Skull and Bones uses occult paraphernalia like skulls and like other kind of occult shit. Yeah, like, so I think that people attribute like satanic kind of shit to it just because of that.
It was designed to look mysterious and powerful.
Yeah, but like I said, Yale has lots of secret societies, which we'll get into. Like, I'll get into some
Masonic style lodges.
Yeah. And like I said, I can see the appeal of that. It is kind of fun, like, to be involved in the secret thing and you can't talk about it, and it's like, but I'm sure that like when you go there to their meetings, it's like super boring.
Like church or something.
There's like nothing interesting.
It's like going to the VA bars. Go in there and get cheap booze, and it's just all fucking burned out. Fucking fuck that shit. Yeah. You know, and then toothless women in there and shit. But I don't think the Masons aren't like that. Just, I think there's a bunch of
the Masons probably don't have toothless women in the bar. Although maybe they do. I don't know. I've never been there.
No,
I've never been there.
In Mississippi, you know, a lot of the Masons are black and they're young.
Yeah.
So some of their lodges that they have there, it's kind of like, which is, you know, it's network building, their community building.
Yeah. Do you have to be invited? You have to be invited, don't you, or can anybody join?
No, you have to be invited by.
That's what. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, and then
because like not much point in having like a society like that if just any motherfucker.
And I think you got to pay to be a member.
Oh, I'm sure.
But you know, those are all from a pre-internet world, where a lot of that Rosicrucian, Masonic type lodges and temples where they came from is they came from Europe in a time when it was ruled by monarchs. You couldn't go around and speak your mind in a monarchy. They didn't have freedom of speech. So they needed a safe space where they could fucking discuss religion and politics.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what... And you couldn't talk about it because if you did, you get your ass killed.
You get killed.
Whereas, you know, there's kind of less danger of that nowadays. But I can still see the...
the purpose for it doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It was a way to get out from underneath monarchies and theocracies.
Yeah.
They'll take all religions, but the Masons were kind of a different take on religion. They didn't call it God, they called him the Grand Architect. And he was across all religions. You could be of any religion and join the Masons. So just generalities. Well, these dudes were also doing shit like anything, secretly they were doing anything against the monarchy for a long time. The British monarchy. Including getting involved in finance and piracies. You know, fucking at the high seas. A lot of the pirates were Masons and worked for Masonic orders. And eventually the a pirate crew was democratic. They believed in democracy. And at the time of the American Revolution, the pirates and the Masons fucking got behind the American Revolution. George Washington was a Mason. A lot of the founding fathers were Masons because they had been talking about democracy. And they were educated and they knew about what a republic was from during the time of Rome. And they were trying to bring back the Roman Republic because that was the best example out of history they had. And they won. A lot of times with the help of those pirates, because a lot of pirates and smugglers and shit helped bring money in and got around blockades, British blockades, did shit like that. But also private soldiers, mercenaries, they were involved, you know. Businessmen, dudes in bars drinking, you know, they were involved. The elite middle class weren't in the American Revolution, most of them. Some were, but they were trying to keep their noses clean. They were afraid of getting in trouble. In the American Revolution, although I think it was the right cause, a lot of bad shit. They did a lot of bad shit that's kind of been left out. You know what I mean? Because
they did.
We lost every battle against the British Army, pretty much, and but that's not how we won. We won by just out enduring them. We wouldn't go away. No matter what they did, we would just disobey.
Just being pains in the ass.
Yeah. And they took over little areas, not by beating soldiers. What they did is they killed judges. That's how you do it. Judges would start passing judgment on people, ruling against revolutionaries. They're supporting the crown. You just go to his house and burn his house down, fucking sexually assault his wife, kill him, tar and feather him, shit. anything like that. Well, the other judges see that and they go, oh shit, the revolution is more of a threat than the king is. So I think I'll just side with these dudes because they're a bigger threat than the king. That's how you win those kind of wars. Whoever's the most threatening wins. And that's the same lesson out of fucking Apocalypse Now, Colonel Kurtz. You know, I'm talking about cutting the little children's inoculated arms off and shit. So if I had guys like that, I could win the war. That's how you do it. You don't fight enemy armies. You fight your own population that's siding with the enemy. Yeah, and it starts in the judicial system that's the most effective one. Now, they won that war, and if you look at the layout of Washington, D.C., it's all Masonic. There's all kinds of Masonic imagery in it, pentagrams.
Oh, yeah. And have we done a show about that? We might have
Yeah.
talked about that on our Illuminati
Yeah.
show.
So these secret societies are powerful. But they all have a place and time. They're not as powerful as they were. They're more of a memory.
Yeah, it's not really. And I
Yeah.
even feel like Skull and Bones, you know, obviously its influence, indeed whatever influence it had, has waned in this era.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the height of people talking about it, at least in my recent memory, was 2004, you know, with the Bush-Kerry election, because they were both Bonesmen, and people thought that was a big deal, like it was this big conspiracy and stuff. But, so I kind of feel like that was kind of the height of their talking about it. But like I said, I just feel like they don't have the influence they wanted. Things like this aren't as influential as they used to be.
Technology made them obsolete.
Because of the internet.
The internet.
Among other things.
Yeah.
I mean,
you have
much.
powerful groups of people, but now they're on the internet working together, and you know them. you know their names. You see who they are. You see what they're doing. And it's philosophical, social, and political. You know, anything you would recognize, you go, well, back in another time, that would have been like the Masons, a Masonic lodge, or a Masonic temple, or something like that. Just a new form of organization. It's just that the original ones, these old ones that we're talking about now, had trappings, physical trappings, that appealed to people back then in a pre-internet age. Look at that building, man. Oh, they have a lot of power.
I mean, Skull and Bones and all of Yale's secret societies are still around, and they still have members and shit like that.
And probably powerful members, or members that will become powerful.
Sure, but like I said, I don't think they're as influential as they once were.
They can't overpower masses of people talking to each other on the internet. There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
You know.
Big Dog said, what was the one in New York? NXIVM, the sex cult. Yeah, we did a show about that.
Now here's another thing, man. NXIVM.
That was like Scientology, but with a weird branding sex cult aspect.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing. Intelligence agencies across time have always kind of recruited the aid of cults like that. And I believe Jeffrey Epstein's fucking island thing and Elliot was something kind of like that. We still don't really know exactly what that was. It was a way of recruiting people into a sex mafia so you could control them. They would join up and go have, and they would join up and have sex with these underage girls and allow themselves to be recorded, so you give them dirt on you so they could trust you, and then you go out and be in a secret society.
Yeah, because if you fuck them over, then they could just
have dirt on
you.
you. Although when you think about it, it'd be dangerous to release the dirt, because if you put that out in the media, they'd be like, who recorded that? Where is this?
Right.
You know what I mean? But they may have had a cover story ready. It was taken from the CIA got a picture of this in a hotel. You know what I mean? Or some shit like that. You know what I mean? They probably make a cover story of how they got the video and where it was taking place.
Big Dog says the movie The Good Shepherd had a big part about the Skull and Bones. Yeah, and there was actually a movie, I think it came out in the early 2000s, maybe it was actually 2000, that was called The Skulls, that was loosely based on Yale Secret Society. And I think it was kind of based on, because at that point, like, some books had come out purporting to say, like, what some of the rituals were like. So I think I saw that movie, but I don't really remember much about it. I think it wasn't very good.
Man, they're saying I got my tits out tonight, nips.
You got your tits out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fucking funny. All right, so CB said with a name like Skull and Bones, you know, they've killed or sacrificed people in the past. Not necessarily.
I think it's shit talking.
Yeah, I think it's basically just they were just trying to be goth as fuck before that was really a thing. That wasn't actually the original name of the society. They just changed it to that later on. And like I said, I think they were just doing it in order to be scary and more mysterious.
Mysterious and intimidating.
Do I think they've sacrificed anybody? Probably not.
No, unlikely.
It is very unlikely. Not impossible. I mean, weirder shit has happened, but...
Be more likely they did things that were humiliating to the initiates.
Yeah. Now that...
It's like hazing.
Yeah. And some people have said that there is kind of hazing kind of shit. Which, like, fraternities and shit do that, too.
Yeah. And it might be that they make you dress up as a woman, and then they fucking assault you in some way.
Well, we'll get
Whether
into...
it's a real assault, I don't know. But,
we'll get into some of the stuff that people have said that they do. Tammy says, I think it's just nerdy white rich boys trying to be cool. Largely.
I think so.
I think that's kind of what
it's mostly what it is.
It's just a cosplay, kind of. Which I said, if that's if that's what they want to do, that's fun. It's fun.
I wouldn't say it's cosplay. They're part of the rituals cosplay, but it's a mafia based on silence and favors.
Well, yeah.
You do something for me, I'll do something for you. When we grow up and get out of here, I'll remember you. If you need anything, I'll fucking hook you up.
Yeah, it's like a lifelong bond kind of thing. And I think a lot of the rituals that they do, at least the stuff that's leaked out, is more in service of bonding people together in the same way slightly that how when you go in Scientology and they make you hook up to the tin cans that they claim as a lie detector, and then you have to like say every weird embarrassing thing that you ever did, and they save that shit for later in case you ever leave.
Yeah, they got dirt on you now.
It's kind of the same kind of thing here, where they put you in like really vulnerable situations or make you confess all these things, particularly sexual things. And so I kind of feel like that might be a way of not only bonding with the other people, because like, oh, we know all this embarrassing shit about one another, but if somebody fucks you over, you're like, hey, I know all this fucking shit about you.
We can release all this dirt.
So it's kind of that too.
So it's kind of like a way of ensuring their allegiance.
Yeah.
And silence.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's what that Epstein stuff is.
Probably, yeah. I mean, that kind of shit.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense to me. Why you let yourself be blackmailed like that, I'm not really sure, but
Because of the money.
I guess.
They're going to offer you fucking positions in institutions because they're so well hooked up that you're going to fucking make millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. And they're going into that because they want to.
Yeah.
And it's not a hard test. Have sex with this 16-year-old. She's hot as shit. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, well, then you can't be a member.
Oh, well, okay.
It's not like they're asking you to roll around in razor blades. You know what I mean?
Or like cut your balls off or something.
Yeah. So any old wussy can do that. Well, especially if he's like evidently they had fucking the fucking dude in the down wheelchair, the scientist in the wheelchair.
Stephen Hawking?
Stephen Hawkins was up there and they were fucking working on him. Whether or not they had sex with him, it was like massages and shit. Because they wanted to fucking recruit everybody from academia so they can manipulate science. All right? Because you want patents on shit.
Right.
So you need to have scientists.
I mean, technically, you can't manipulate science.
No,
you can manipulate scientists.
Yeah, you're manipulating scientists to say, yeah, that's good.
But you can't manipulate actual science.
No, not real science.
Because science exists outside of human perception.
Yeah, but if you look at the American history going back to the 1800s and 1900s, it's filled with fake science. Filled with it. Just fucking.
They didn't know what they were doing.
No, they knew what they were doing. They're trying to sell medicine. They were telling, well, radiation is good for you. That was the thing that was going on.
It's like, yeah, but like all my teeth are falling out. That's bad, right?
And here's the scientific proof that radiation is good for you. Oh, and stepping in behind a powerful fucking live action X-ray? No, that's not dangerous.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Totally fine.
Yeah, no.
It's like, what are all these growths?
Yeah, scientifically proven that fucking intense X-ray bombardment is no problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Fuck them.
They paid somebody to say
that. They pay somebody to say that.
It was just like all those cigarette companies back in the day when you could still advertise cigarettes like in magazines and stuff. Like they'd pay some doctor, or I don't even know if they paid a doctor. They might have just made up a doctor. Because it's like no one's gonna check. Like you can check.
I think they did pay doctors to prove, in quotations, prove that smoking was good for you.
These cigarettes are good for you.
Yes, they're good for you. They make your lungs work harder, so your lungs become stronger and more resistant.
It makes total sense.
That's what L. Ron Hubbard believed.
Yeah.
That smoking was good for you.
Yeah.
It makes
that's
you
why
resistant
that's
to
why a lot of Scientologists smoke, because
Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard did, and they still have this weird belief that it's like good for you somehow.
Yeah, because it weeds out the weak. And it makes you stronger.
I guess.
More resistant to cancer.
Sure.
Yeah. Like jogging. The more you jog, maybe the more distance you'll be able to cover over time. It's like that. That's what they're thinking. You're building up a resistance to the fucking nicotine.
Oh my goodness.
Well, the nicotine's actually harmless. It's all the fucking tar. The tar.
It's mostly that. Yeah.
Tar will make you
I mean,
tar and poisonous gases give you fucking cancer.
It's crazy. It's crazy what fucking people will believe.
That's why I don't trust authority.
Well, I generally do not either.
Especially when money's involved. Money and compliance.
Yeah.
No.
Zia Marie also mentioned the movie The Skulls. Yeah, she said late 90s. Yeah, I thought it was 2000, but I don't remember when it was. But it was kind of loosely based on this. I don't think they knew... Well, they did know, like, a little bit about it. But like I said, the Skull and Bones has been pretty good about keeping its shit under wraps. Because that's kind of their bread and butter, right? You know?
Yeah.
Like, people have an expectation now that it's supposed to be, like, all secret and shit. So it's like, if you just went out blabbing about what happened there, like, everybody would get mad at you. Although some people have, but, like, anonymously. Because there have been a couple books that came out about it. But there have been a couple books about it, too, that I think are probably exaggerated.
Cami called it. 4 out of 5 doctors agree.
Yeah, remember those commercials?
Yeah.
What was the one that was mostly... I think that was the gum one. Didn't they have, like, a thing that was, like, gum?
Yeah.
And 4 out of 5 doctors agree that, like, chewing the gum was...
Man, they have lied to us so badly, especially in our lifetime. They told us that butter was bad for you, that margarine is the fucking solution to lowering your cholesterol.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, no, not true. Butter's much better for you than
That was
margarine.
big margarine.
Yeah, that's because they had a shit ton of fucking...
They're like, we have
shit
all
ton
this
of vegetable
margarine.
oil sitting around, and we're
Please,
trying to make it into a product.
We have to get rid of it.
Yeah. The same thing that was going on in the fucking tobacco industry was going on in the food industry. It was the same people, the same fucking tactics. This is better for you. That's just worse for you. Don't eat that. What are you talking about? You get fatter on that shit.
Well, see, that's why you should
Yeah.
never believe the science that comes at you from, like, advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously they have an agenda. They're trying to sell you this thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Real science would probably put a lot of rich people out of business, so they can't have that.
I mean, you just got to go read
Yeah.
the original papers.
Yeah.
And honestly, too, like, if you read the original papers, like, sometimes, and, you know, popular science journalists, they have an important job. They're trying to, like, interpret, you know, stuff that's kind of more convoluted than most your average Joe can understand, I guess, and they're trying to, like, make it palatable for a wider audience. But sometimes, because they want people to read the article, they get it wrong, or they make it seem like a lot bigger deal than it actually is. Like, if you go out and read the paper, it's just like nothing. It's just like, yeah, it was like a 2% something, and they're making it seem like, hey, this causes this. And they're like, yeah, we saw like a 2.5% increase. You know, it's like, it's nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah, technically that's correct, but context is everything. So, you know, like I said, I don't want to shit on, like, popular science journalists because, like I said, they are trying to do their job, but they are also beholden to whatever publication or whatever website they're writing for that obviously has to sell advertising. So it's in their interest to have people read it, so they want it to be titillating or exciting or interesting. If it's just some boring, hey, we saw a 2% increase in XYZ, no one's going to fucking read that. You know what I mean?
Good thing I went out and got that vodka, because that shit's almost empty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were sitting there thinking today, we had, like, some vodka left from Monday, and I was just like, well, maybe we have enough. And Tom's like, I'm going to go get some more. And he's like, yeah, it's a good thing we did, because it's almost gone. But, yeah. And we haven't even started. But, I mean, okay. All right, so let's kind of dispense with all the thing. Zia says, so I live 10 minutes from Yale, and if you look up the New Haven green aerial shot, it's literally a pentagram because the elites are all super into the occult, and the green is, like, right next to Yale. Yeah, I kind of feel like they were all... Which, like I said, it's a tradition that goes back centuries. You know, everybody liked the weird, like, creepy, esoteric... Now, like, I get it. Like, I'm kind of into that kind of shit, too, but... I think people maybe make it more important than it actually is. You know what I mean? I think that's all it is. Ooh, we got a super chat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, super chats. Who's that?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Skull and Bones and the Grove are just a way for the rich families to get to the top and stay on top forever. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And like I said, it's not just those. It's pretty much any secret society, any kind of thing like that, where rich people get together and network with each other, and you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't really consider that a conspiracy, because that's just what rich people do. They want to hold on to their money, they want to hold on to their power, and they're going to consolidate in order to do that. You know what I mean? Is it nefarious? I mean, from our point of view, yeah, probably, because it kind of fucks over the rest of us, but I don't think that really counts as a conspiracy theory, because they're just doing it for their own selfishness, really. I don't think they really give a crap about what happens to the rest of us. You know what I mean? That's all it is. So, if you want to call that a conspiracy theory, I guess you can, but like that's from my definition of conspiracy theory, that's not really a conspiracy theory. They're just trying to like sustain their own power, which anyone would do in that situation. I kind of feel like most people would do.
Yeah, and one of those mechanisms is networking.
Yeah, which middle class people also do.
Same thing.
And no one calls it a conspiracy when middle class people do it.
Well, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
When you have rich people, there's more power and there's fewer of them.
Yeah, and there's fewer. So it seems more... And like I said, their shit, because they have much more money and much more power, obviously it affects the rest of us more than the shit that we do. You know what I mean? So I get it. You know, I'm just saying.
Look what I did.
What'd you do?
I brought my fucking flashlight so I could show Tammy my nipples. See that shit?
Oh. He was thinking ahead.
I was thinking ahead on that shit. Oh shit, you can't see it.
What, did you pinch them so they would stand out better?
Yeah, I pinch that bitch. Hold on. Man, look at it. It's got too much fucking shine, too much fucking glare.
Aww.
Too much glare on that shit.
Okay.
Oh, I ain't fuck this shit.
You're so silly. You're so silly.
I'm fucking thirst trapping.
Yeah, I see that.
Thirst trapping, trying to get some of them super chats. Get some of them female gauge super chats.
Oh my God. Don't you grade yourself though, Tom?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna get that wild.
Oh, you might. Papa
Not
says
tonight. Not tonight. Not on this topic.
Oh, you never know.
Okay.
You never
So
know.
she's trying to egg me on. She's trying to get me to perform.
Yeah.
I would do it.
Tammy says, "Wow." Yeah.
The light wasn't right. That was just the first time I tried that shit.
Yeah, we didn't really.
Too bright. That's a powerful fucking flashlight.
Too much. It's
I
too much
love this
nipple.
flashlight. It's metal. You can bash somebody in the head. It's got a thing on it. You can
If you're
break
into
fucking
that.
glass with it right there. It's even on the back got a thing where you can fucking start fire. See that arc right there?
Oh, I didn't even know it had that.
Yeah.
That's handy. In case we're ever on Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, you can make fire.
You should take that with you as your one thing.
Compass on the back.
I didn't know it had all that shit.
It's got all this shit on there.
That's pretty sweet.
It's even, see that right there? That is a blade for cutting seat belts.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know it had that either.
Yeah, to free yourself if you're in
I
a
just
car
thought it
and
was
you're
a regular
going
ass flashlight.
James Bond shit. You're sinking in the water and you fucking, where's the flashlight? The water's falling up like that. And you're
I'm free.
I mean, in case you somehow can't fucking unhook them.
I mean,
see. More. Oh, somebody's giving us some money.
Papa gave us another secret chat. People start consistent. I guess he means conspiracy theories, because the truth is way more scary than a bunch of lies. Well, I think I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but I'm just saying I think people are kind of into conspiracy theories because it's much scarier if the world is just chaotic, like, and there isn't meaning to stuff. So I kind of feel like even if there's one powerful, like the lizard people or the Illuminati or whatever the fuck, and they're like controlling everything, and that's bad, but I think that makes them feel better because at least there's something concrete you can hold on to that's controlling things rather than everything just having no meaning and like not...
Then my take on it is that, right, she's talking about extreme conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I'm talking about like worlds, but there's smaller ones for sure. But I'm talking about like big world-spanning ones.
The smaller ones, a lot of them turn out, depending on what exactly we're talking about, a lot of them turn out to be true. The chemtrail thing, I was like, man, that's kind of out. Turns out there's some truth behind that. They're putting barium salts in the fucking jet fuel in an attempt to fucking do geoengineering to reduce global warming. Yeah, they're doing that. They're gonna stop that though. You don't know how that affects the soil, and it's not going to make a difference. But somebody made money off selling that idea to the federal government. So, Yeah, some of the conspiracy theories turn out to be true. But they're not as earth-shattering as shit like lizard people.
Yeah, and some of them are just like boring. Like some of them, even like some of them have like a grain of truth to them, but then when you look up the actual shit, it's like just kind of boring. It's like not really that interesting.
Yeah, there's
that nefarious.
It turned
or
out
anything.
that it got declassified. There was kind of like a geoengineering attempt
that they were trying to do shit.
Yeah,
which, like I said, they tried to do a lot of shit
yeah.
like that. It's not that big.
Yeah, and there seems to be weather modification, and they've been doing that. We know they've been doing that since the 60s. They started that in Vietnam, making rainstorms happen at certain times because you can seed clouds. Yeah. Now, are there UFOs and fucking, or there satellites that can fucking cause a damn hurricane anywhere on the planet as soon as you want one? I doubt it. The amount of energy you would need to start one. But is there something like a HARP that could change the course of a fucking hurricane that's already started? Maybe. I don't know much about electromagnetic radiation.
Maybe. I kind of feel like weather is just there's too many factors that you have to.
You'd have to be a scientist about that. You'd have to be a scientist. You'd really. And
there's
it would be classified.
There's too many contingencies. I think.
Be more likely that in order to steer a fucking hurricane, you need a plane dropping a bunch of stuff in the air that would fucking cause things to happen, like barium salts or something like that.
CB said Tom got the light out and Goodbye Horses started playing in my head.
Did it?
Would you fuck me?
Yeah, we did. Oh, fuck.
Tuck your dick between your legs and kind of start dancing around. He's doing it. He's doing it. Yeah, Stardog says it's like having a unifying theory that explains everything. Yeah, and I kind of feel like it's almost kind of the same thing. It's the same mindset, I guess, as religions. Like I said, you just want something that explains everything. Because, like I said, the world is a chaotic and largely meaningless place. There's nothing looking out for us. There's no overarching, bad shit happens to good people. Good shit happens to bad people. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So it's just, and I think people find that very alarming, and so they need to find something to like hang on to that makes everything make sense, rather than just embracing the nonsense.
Yeah, some of the weird shit that's come up, like the David Icke stuff about the lizard people. I didn't know much about him. I was just listening to some of the things that he had said, some of the little shows. Some of that shit was coded like he might be talking in euphemism about Jews. That might be what he's talking about.
Well, the shit that he's talking about, it comes directly from anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
He's just replacing lizard people.
With Jews.
So I'm not really sure if he actually legit believes in actual lizard people, or if he's just an anti-Semite that doesn't want to get his ass kicked.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought might have been what it was. And then later
Could be either thing.
But some of the things he's taught, some of the people he mentions as being the lizard people are not Jewish.
Right.
So then I started to think...
But maybe that's like a cover story, because he's like, look, I'm not anti-Semitic. Look, that lizard person isn't Jewish.
Or he might have actually been using lizard people as a cover for the concept of like what Ian Fleming called Spectre.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is an amorphous bad people in power.
Yeah, which,
they exist.
Sure.
They don't call themselves Spectre.
I don't know, man.
They look like Spectre.
I've listened to David Icke.
Yeah.
It's Ike, right?
I think it's Ike or Icky. I thought it was Icky.
I did too, but I'm not entirely sure. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I've heard several interviews with him. I'm not really sure where I fall on that. Honestly, it seems like he really seems to literally believe in lizard people.
It's too outrageous for me to swallow that.
But
I thought it was euphemism.
But then I don't know, man, because it's like I kind of hear something like that. I'm like, you've got to be fucking joking. Come on now. Yeah. But there are people who believe the stupid shit like that, so I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
Well, there are people that believe in the flat earth or say that they do, but I know people that believe
we did a whole last show on that.
But they don't actually believe that. They're fucking with you. It's like trolling. It's a way of just...
I know there are some people that do genuinely believe that, though.
Yeah, I think there are some that... But it's
just
because
intensely stupid people.
But it's... no, it's religion.
Well, yeah.
They cannot go against the Bible.
Yeah.
But the Bible doesn't actually... Well, fuck that shit.
It doesn't actually really say that?
It doesn't say it's flat, yeah.
But that was the interpretation that they went with.
The imagery, right, yeah.
So, But, yeah. I mean,
They give the Egyptian model. In the Egyptian model, there's an underworld and a fucking solid sky with fucking stars set in it. And then there's the land, and then there's the edges and you can fall off. People believe that kind of shit for a long time. But educated people going back to ancient Greece knew it was a sphere.
Yeah, even like thousands of years ago,
they
knew it
wasn't
wasn't flat.
Yeah, even the Romans, educated Romans would laugh at the flat Earth. They're like, no, it's a sphere. Yeah. They had and they knew that the moon was a sphere, and the other planets were probably spheres. You know.
Yeah,
they knew how far away they were. They could compute it.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. Gotta say.
Yeah, the Romans were
even thousands of years ago.
Way ahead of their time. Way ahead.
So like you didn't even need all the like astronomical shit we have now. It's like they figured that shit out.
Just by using geometry.
Just with geometry. Yep. So they were no slouches.
They were almost.
They got real close.
They were almost at an industrial revolution. Some people say that they were industrialized because they were mass producing chariots and fucking swords and shit, and mass producing fucking grains and wheat and bread. So they made. You might be able to call them industrial. It just wasn't high in industry, and it never really. They didn't apply the steam engine properly. They used it to open temple doors instead of making a train. They needed a fucking trains. That's what it made it.
Like they kind of had the technology, but they were using it for the wrong shit.
Yeah, they were too dependent on German slaves, which fucked up their economy and it made them so where they didn't need to. They didn't have to invent labor-saving devices because labor was cheap. You could buy a German slave for nothing.
Yeah, so they didn't really have. That's yet another way that slavery fucks up economies. Is that if you have an unwilling, cheap workforce that will do all this shit for you because they have to, you're not gonna be incentivized to come up with like labor saving devices like machines and
although
stuff.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that the German slaves were pretty willing. I mean, the Goths were selling their own children as slaves to the Romans in exchange for dog meat. So they were trying to get in there too,
right?
Trying to get into Rome. So because
that's like desperation, though.
Desperate, and there wasn't a fucking stigma behind slavery back then. Back then, in the Roman times, slavery was equivalent to being a minimum wage employee, and it had job security,
which is still kind of like
because poverty was so bad. You got to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Is that his poverty was so bad that slavery was a good option for a lot of Germans.
I could see that.
Either you starve or you're killed by fucking other
if you're
Germanic
that's
tribes.
really sad that your life could be that shit.
Yeah.
That like slavery seems like a decent option.
It would be
or like the only good option.
Because it would be safer.
All the shitty options.
Yeah, because it would be safer. Because the Germanic tribes were fucking cannibals and they killed each other all the time, and fucking then you had fucking other Germanic tribes moving in that were kind of like Huns coming in all the time, fucking, killing people.
All right. Well,
let's get back on topic.
Well, now I have to go to the bathroom, but like, so I'll go to the bathroom and then I promise we'll get back on topic.
Yeah, we're on topic.
I mean,
basically.
Sort of.
There isn't a whole lot of shit to talk about this, so I don't want to say it's filler. What we're talking about is adjacent to it. But we're gonna get into the nitty gritty about this particular organization here in a minute. Let me see what everybody's talking about. Hi, does it say Icky's a nut or Ike is a nut? I think it's Icky. I think is what I would. Yeah. He's either a nut or he's fucking, like I said, speaking in euphemisms. Either way, he's kind of a nut. All right. Okay, we got maintenance guy going in there saying that fucking Jesus Christ is real. Okay. He said the pyramids of Egypt would be impossible for us to construct, yet they exist. No. They'd be impossible for us to construct with modern machinery, like we use fucking steam shovels and shit. But no, I know exactly how they built the pyramids pyramids, especially that last pyramid of Giza. And I was in Egypt for a year. I've seen all this shit. The first level, they left a piece of it out. It was kind of like a slope, because not all those fucking blocks are squares. They're different shapes, especially in the interior. So what they did is they built it. They left a hollow space in there, like a train track that went around in a big square, so they could build to the top. And then when they got up to the top, they put the fucking capstone from the inside, and then it filled that train track. It was like a fucking, it was like a subway system. They filled it up on their way back out, and it became solid. There's a French guy that figured it out, and you can use fucking computer algorithms to fucking do the order of the blocks as they went up there, and what the dimensions of all the blocks were. And they got them up that train track on a fucking track made out of wood. They were using levers, which that checks to get and the block was on sleds. And that's exactly the way the Greek historians fucking described it. They said it was built with levers.
Here's the thing, though. That is all true.
Yeah.
But I have found that people that have conspiratorial mindsets will never, ever believe anything you tell them. They say all the time, well, explain this, explain that. You explain it to them, and then they don't listen to you. So I have given up. I'm too old and impatient for that kind of crap. So I don't, because they're not going to listen to you anyways.
Yeah, and you know, fucking, main this guy's going on about Jesus, and if I fucking actually told you the truth about that, you're going to get your feelings hurt.
And he wouldn't believe that either, so what's the fucking point?
Jesus was not a historical figure. He never lived. All right. The original Christianity, he was an angel, an archangel. God's favorite archangel above Gabriel. And then he got killed by fucking archons, or the fucking rulers of, or what do they call them? Basically, archons are basically sky demons. They were the ones that fucking disobeyed God in Genesis. But then they changed that, and they said, no, Jesus was born. He was born of a woman. The reason why they kept saying he was born of a woman is because
which, like, everyone is.
Yeah, everybody's born of a woman.
Big deal.
They're saying that later on another version of Christianity came out, probably 3rd century, 2nd century. We're saying that, no, Jesus actually lived. Because originally Christians never believed Jesus was
that he wasn't a person. That was a later extrapolation.
He was more of an archangel.
Like 2nd, 3rd century.
Yeah, and you're saved by his blood in the same way that you're saved by the blood of the lamb during the fucking scapegoat sacrifice, the Jewish blood magic. Just that in this case, it's not the blood of a lamb, of a perfect lamb. It's the blood of a fucking demigod, where his father was God and his mother was a mortal. And that blood's powerful enough to wash away the sins of not only a whole tribe, but all of mankind. And then you let go the scapegoat. But in this case, the scapegoat is Barabbas. All right, and you drive him over a cliff. Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating, but it's all the same story.
Same ritual, yeah.
So they just added, like I said, it's like expanded universe. It's exactly like comic books, like Marvel Universe. It's exactly like that.
Exactly.
But as time goes on, they just like added different details.
If you went back to fucking 30 AD and asked Romans, hey, where's Jesus? Or even in Judea, they wouldn't know who you were talking about. Because Christianity was actually something more like from 2nd century. They wouldn't know who you're talking about because that guy never existed. There was no street preacher like that.
One thing that I have found is that people who profess to be Christians the loudest,
they know very little
about their own religion.
But I was raised as a Christian. It's just
I'm sure that's not.
I studied.
I'm sure that's not true across the board.
Yeah.
But that has been universally true in my experience.
It's a Roman religion. It's all it is. It's just like the other Roman religions. Basically, it kind of reminds me of fucking what was his name? I forgot. Go to the restroom. It's a copy of one of the other Roman gods.
CB says the scapegoat is real. He's wrestling in AEW. You guys have a wrestler named the Scapegoat? That's rad. What does he do? Like, what is his outfit or what is his... I don't know that much about wrestling. So, does he have like a cool outfit or like a whole backstory that has something to do with that? Or I'd be like kind of curious. Like I said, I don't know a great deal about fucking wrestling. Let's see. CB also says the Freemasons are still around. Most of them are high-ranking police officers or politicians. Yeah, and it's the same kind of thing. I kind of feel like Freemasons is still kind of secretive, but not as secretive as it used to be because that obviously has a lot more members. But again, I don't think it's anything particularly nefarious. I think it's just kind of like, you go down to the fucking Elks Lodge or whatever, and yeah, I kind of feel like it's mostly old dudes, and they're just like hanging out and making connections. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, got this fucking job I got to do, or I got to sell my company or something like that. And it's just kind of like networking. Like, I think that's probably mostly what it is. So, Nostalgic Top Hat says, my office is 1 block from Skull and Bones in New Haven, LOL. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Remember the Roman god I was thinking about, Dionysus.
Yeah.
Basically a reboot of Dionysus.
Yeah, I mean, the Jesus story is very old. It predates Jesus by many, many centuries. Actually, maybe millennia.
Ancient Egypt. It's basically the same story as like an Osiris becoming Horus.
I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's
Osiris
the same story.
was born of Isis. She was a mortal woman. She became a god later. Her son was fucking Amun, who was the solar disk. He's killed by Set, and his mother rearranges him, puts him back together, but couldn't find the eye, so she put the eye of a fucking a hawk in it, and he ascended to heaven as Horus, which is, you know, Osiris reborn, and he was placed in charge of Egypt, Overwatch. So it's the same going, a dying and rising god who goes to heaven to watch over. At the right hand of God. It's a very, very common story, going back thousands to watch over the fucking judgment of the dead. So, and there are so many. The baby Jesus and fucking Mary is Isis and Osiris. It's the same imagery.
Papa gave us another super chat and says, I was wondering this too. What's up with the crown and experience points? I was wondering that also. I have never seen that before. Like, do you guys see that? With the little crown and, like, number 3, number 2? I don't get that. I've never seen that. That's a new thing. I'll have to research it tomorrow and see, like, what, it must be some new thing that YouTube has added. Because I've never seen that ever. Even when we did the show Monday, I didn't see that.
Okay, yeah, you guys can I'm gonna go kick maintenance guy out. He's saying I'm on coke. I've snorted all kinds of coke, but I'm not on coke right now.
He hasn't snorted coke in a long time.
Right, yeah.
I remember the last time, and that was years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was, okay, so, so he's talking about, CB was talking about a wrestler that was called the Scapegoat. He says, he's Jack Perry, he's a fuckwit. He started a real fight with CM Punk. Well, now I know who CM Punk is. In the locker room, and Punk went back to WWE. Perry cost AEW millions of dollars. Jack Perry is also the son of Luke Perry. Oh, okay. Now it's all starting to make me.
Man, this guy, you're now hidden from channel. You can talk. You can talk all you want. Nobody sees it.
Well, that's good. He was kind of getting boring.
You can fuck off.
Plus, what is with all the cap? Why do crazy people have their caps lock on all the time?
Small dicks.
What is that about?
Small dicks.
Another thing I've noticed, too, is that it's either all caps or they capitalize every word, which must be exhausting because that takes a long time to do. I don't understand, like, why people just type normal. Like, what the fuck?
You're trying to be more significant.
I'm like, you just look like a loon is all that does.
Yeah.
Good job.
You know what you're talking about. You're ignorant.
Well, they usually are.
Yeah.
But, Papa says, well, I'm number 2. I think he's talking about me. Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah. And Tammy got a number 1 on hers.
What?
Yeah, Papa said good. That guy was annoying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, you guys are the moderators. You should
get
rid of
normally, because remember, okay, so when we were here, when we did the show Friday night, was it Friday night when we did the Sidetrack show?
Yeah, yeah.
We had a new person in here. I'm guessing it was the first time I'd ever seen them comment.
I think he was British.
Yeah, he was a British guy. I think his screen name was Fab, and he kept commenting stuff.
And we didn't know what he was talking about.
And I was just kind of like, should I block this? He wasn't saying anything like abusive or
rude
or anything like that. But
we didn't know what he was talking about.
He seemed like he was addressing things that no one was talking about. I'm like, who are you talking to, bro?
Yeah, non sequiturs and shit.
And then I was like, I'm just gonna ignore that shit because honestly, most of the time when people like that show up in your chat, they just want attention.
Yeah.
And I really don't like to give attention whores attention. So I think it's better just to ignore them and like don't address what they're saying at all.
He might have been tripping balls though too.
Possibly, like I said, just a pro tip: turn off your fucking caps lock and maybe go outside and read some books or something.
Go watch some porn, go jerk it out. You'll be all right.
You'll be all right. I don't know, or maybe go snort some coke. That might help you.
Snort some coke.
I don't know. No, probably not. It probably wouldn't help that person. Maybe smoke some weed.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be better.
Drop some acid.
Drop some acid.
Drop some acid. Do some introspection.
That would do some introspection. That might help.
Trying to figure out what the fuck.
I'm not sure. It might make him worse. I don't know. That could go either way. But
I think it was a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think it was a
probably
kid.
Yeah, Tammy says, I usually let them talk until they get nasty towards one of you guys or someone in the chat. Yeah, like I said, I don't really care. Like, I mean, if they come in immediately, like, saying some stupid fucked up shit, then yeah, like, just block them.
That one I think was a kid.
But yeah, if you're just coming in, it's like most of the time, like I said, they just want attention, and so I'm just going to ignore you until you start being a real pest.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Saying, oh, you trying to use Coke as an insult. Man, I wish I had Coke. I want a fucking pound of that shit.
Right, like, why is that insulting?
Yeah,
like, yeah, I wish I had some cocaine
that's rich
right
man
now.
drug there.
It's too rich for my blood. I can't. Although I don't. It's not as expensive as it used to be in the 80s, but
I wouldn't trust anything you'd have now.
Yeah,
Fentanyl.
I don't know what the fuck they're cutting it with anymore.
Yeah, probably got fentanyl in it. I wouldn't take anything like that. No.
The last time we did some, it like didn't do jack shit. It didn't do anything bad, but it didn't do anything like that.
Because the dude that gave it to us, Bogart, did it all.
Yeah, I think
he
that's
only gave us such a small amount. It was like ineffective. We would have been drinking. It didn't even fucking counteract the
I was like, bro, I feel no like effect whatsoever.
Oh.
Papa gave us another super chat. He said, I think he was saying I was on coke, not you.
Oh, okay.
And I am. And
And yeah, cool.
Oh, he called it.
Cool.
No, I'm just kidding. But like I said, it's like, why is
your
that?
hot wife or somebody else's hot wife?
Again, hey, whatever.
Man, a man's got to do what he's got to do.
Sure.
You're a player.
I know, that's right.
Yeah.
CB said, Jenny, if they're from the UK, he might have been drunk because 13 o'clock starts at 12:20 a.m.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
No, he seemed okay. Just I couldn't understand what the fuck what he's referring to. It's like he's talking to somebody else.
Yeah, we're talking about the dude from the Friday night.
And he was
show.
surprised that we were talking about certain things. Like, oh, they're talking about sex now.
I'm like,
where the fuck you been?
Are you new here?
Yeah, you must be new here.
I'm like, you're new here. It's like this happens every single time. But it's like, see, that's the weird thing. Like, if I don't do this, but if I was gonna go on the chat, like live chat of some show, that I'd never seen before, I'm not gonna like go in the comments and immediately start, or why are we talking about this, blah blah blah, because obviously the show's been going on a long time. There's like regulars, you know, I've never been here, so it's like, how the fuck would I know what normally goes on? So I'm not gonna like make a stupid ass of myself by coming in and saying, why are we talking about that? You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, it's just weird. It's weird that you would do that. But you know, maybe he was high as balls too. I'm willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're high as balls.
Big Dog says he loves me a hot wife. I like hot wife. I like hot wife. I like hot wife porn. That's just hot as shit. I like it.
We're both kind of into, like I said, he's into the hot wife thing.
About me,
I'm into the hot husband thing, which I guess, is that called cuck queen? That's called cuck queen.
Cuck queen, yeah.
Kind of, but I'm not into humiliation. I don't really like that. I don't want him to tell me, oh, this chick is so much hotter than you, or it's, I don't like humiliation. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I just like the idea.
Yeah, she likes the idea of me fooling around on her.
Yeah. Like, not in real
with
life.
Hotties that she likes.
Well, people that I know.
Yeah, people that she
Well, it helps me picture it better, because it's like, cause I know that person.
It's hilarious. I'm having sex with her. I gotta make up all these stories about people that we know.
Yeah.
I'm
You're like, good at it, though. You're good at it.
But I kind of like feel like a shithead.
I know you do. But I told you it was okay.
Okay, all right.
I know you didn't really do it.
Yeah, like, what if she actually believes I was doing this shit with her?
I know you didn't really do it.
Yeah.
Just make the story up. It's okay, like I like the stories. You know what I mean? CB says, I love vampire porn.
Werewolf porn.
I like werewolf porn better than vampire porn, probably.
Actually, you can have vampires and werewolves having sex in the animated stuff, all the fucking computer animated.
Yeah, I like all the kind of like monster porn, like all the monster mash, like all the animated shit. Yeah, Big Dog said, yeah, I'm an amateur hot wife and cuck queen. Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I recently got into that like a few years back. Like before that, like I said, the thought of it just made me mad. But I don't know, for some reason, like the last few years, I'm just like, I kind of get off on the thought of it. And like I said, I kind of like, I told him, I said, I kind of like the idea. I was like, when he comes up with stories, because sometimes he'll come up with a story and I'm there, like it's a threesome kind of situation with somebody we know, which that's cool too. Because we've actually done that a few times, but I said I like it better if you're sneaking out, like not telling me about it. You know what I mean? That's better. Because it kind of makes me mad, and I kind of get like off on the outrage. I guess I don't know what it is. It's like weird. I should probably get therapy, probably, but it's okay. It's not hurting anything. And he just thinks it's funny. He just thinks it's funny. I think he just thinks it's annoying because he has to keep coming up with. He's like, wait. He's like, do these have to be like in sequence, or do they have to make sense? Does it have to be like an overarching? He's like, you're a novelist. It's like, I know how you are about this stuff. He's like, does He's like, does the timeline have to make sense? Does it have? I'm like, no. It's like, don't worry. These are all, specific, just one-off stories. I was just like, I said I'd like them to be kind of realistic, like it could have happened, but it doesn't have to be in sequence or it doesn't have to be in any timeline or anything like that. Like, don't worry about it. Because he was like, he was trying to think of like
sequence of the timeline.
Yeah,
I'm
like
trying to get a lore behind it.
He's trying to get a lore, and I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's just like so funny. It's so funny that we're having that. They're having that discussion.
Yeah, I like general bad girl shit.
Yeah.
Oh, what you're gonna do today. I'll just come up with all kinds of fucking scenarios. Fucking, I got some guys coming over. I'm gonna make all kinds of money tonight. Just shit like that.
Yeah, he likes that kind of stuff.
Just do shit like that.
Like, not pimping. Well, kind of pimping me.
No.
He likes the idea.
Sometimes I'll mention money, but most of the time it's just using you.
He's like, you're gonna make so much money.
Yeah, just that kind of shit.
He's gonna be over there counting all his money.
Yeah. But none of this actually happens. It's just playing mind games.
Yeah. Papa says
shocking.
Over an hour in, and Jenny still hasn't started reading her notes for the show. I know.
No, you're just starting, right?
Yeah, that's the top.
Well, we try to get a 3-hour show.
That's the top.
Okay, go ahead. He's checking me.
We kind of referred to it like
He's
a few
checking.
times. You can riff on some of this stuff.
All
right. So we're finally getting into some smartass in the comments is gonna go. Show starts at blah blah blah. Like timestamp.
Oh, we're gonna find a timestamp in the comments section. It's gonna be so regular.
Yeah, it usually is. But then
the show started a long time ago.
It kind of messes it up because the day after the show, like when it kind of processes out, I usually cut off the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all just the waiting screen because it's like
so it fucks up. Yeah.
Nobody wants to watch that, so it'll kind of fuck up your time. I'm just telling you. I will usually do that the morning after the show, like because it usually takes 24 hours, like for the show to process, and you can go in there and edit it after. So I usually go in there and cut the first 5 minutes off. That's just the waiting screen. All right, so we're talking about, obviously, Skull and Bones. Now, if you are not from the United States, I don't know how familiar you might be with what Skull and Bones is. It's basically a secret society at Yale University. It's also known as the Order, Order 322, which we'll get into maybe why that is later. Sources vary on what that means. Or the Brotherhood of Death, which I'm just kind of like, that seems a little try-hard. But yeah. So Yale University, obviously in New Haven, Connecticut. Probably, I think it's the third, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the third oldest college in the United States. I believe William and Mary is the oldest, and I think Harvard might be the second oldest, but I think Yale is the third oldest. So because of Skull and Bones' secrecy and their imagery that they use, obviously they've been at the center of a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff like that, which, like I said, I kind of largely believe are bullshit. There are some seeds of truth to maybe why people believe certain things about them, but I kind of feel like mostly the shit that they do is just regular ass networking shit and just kind of hazing, ritualistic kind of shit that a lot of these kind of secret society things do. Now, Skull and Bones, as I said, is only one of several secret societies at Yale. For some reason, it's the only one that people talk about to any great degree. I mean, I know why, because it's like creepy and has skulls and stuff. But there's a bunch of secret societies at Yale, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. Although Skull and Bones is obviously the most famous, and it's one of the quote-unquote big three, like the big three famous ones, the other two being Scroll and Key, and another one called Wolf's Head. But there's a bunch of other ones aside from that. Those are just like the three that are the most famous. So as I mentioned, members of this are generally called Bonesmen. So little bit, just a slight history of Yale University. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, located in New Haven, Connecticut. I believe it's the third oldest and one of the most prestigious, obviously, institutions in the United States. Founded in 1701 as something called the Collegiate School in Killingsworth, Connecticut. And it was actually founded by a bunch of Congregationalist ministers. And the original intent of the university was to train clergymen and various civic leaders. Like I said, this was 1701, so very early days of the American Republic. So the school moved to New Haven in 1716, And in 1718, it got renamed Yale College. And that was after a dude named Elihu Yale, who was a Welsh dude, like a businessman. And he gave them a fuck ton of money. So they named the shit after him. You know what I mean? And like I said, the college was fledgling at this point. So he gave them a whole bunch of
very
money.
religious, both Yale and Harvard, when they started. They were
that's
Christian colleges.
Generally, I think that the colleges that started, like I said, the oldest college in the United States, please correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I remember, is William and Mary, which started out, I think they mostly started as religious institutions, largely.
Education was a religious institution during this era. There was no other way to become there was no such thing as secular education. It was all religious.
Not really. Like, there was some, I guess, what you would call secular education on the side, but I think the main purpose of it was religious
it had a religious
instruction.
Motif. Yeah. It just, the subjects may have been secular.
Yeah.
You know, like history and shit like that.
Right.
This and that. But it was happening in a religious institution.
In a religious, and probably in a religious framework, I would think. Like, because I kind of feel like I don't really know, but like even back in the day, like the history and stuff would not be framed in that sort of...
Christianity gets a bad rap in modern fucking times. But it was actually pretty good. I mean, the best scientist of all time, Isaac Newton, was religious as fuck. He believed in angels.
And also alchemy.
Yeah, and alchemy. But he figured out fucking calculus and physics and shit. You know what I mean? Fucking Newtonian physics is you couldn't have any technology without Newtonian physics.
People are complicated, y'all.
Yeah.
That's what that... I read a whole... there's been at least one book that I read, there might be more than one, specifically about Isaac Newton and his alchemy.
We gotta do a show on him.
Well, I put it in the polls. I have it.
Because not only that, he was a sleuth, man.
Yeah.
He was trying to catch fucking people who were counterfeiting money.
That's right. I read a book about that too.
He was a good investigator, man.
He was really good at it.
Yeah. He was like a fucking grand prosecutor.
Yeah.
Who's faking gold coins, goddammit.
Yeah, he was
making fake money.
he was like after counterfeiters.
Yeah. He knew what he was doing too. He knew how to interview with people. He knew how to interrogate people.
I read a couple books because Isaac Newton is a fascinating historical character, but I read a book about him, like about his alchemy stuff, and then there was a whole book about him and his trying to catch counterfeiters. Yeah. And that was also really interesting. I think it was just called Isaac Newton and the Counterfeiters, but I could be wrong about that. It was a long time ago that I read it.
One of the greatest white men of all times. And he was religious as fuck.
Yeah.
To a ridiculous... He was trying to calculate how many angels could dance on the head of a fucking pin. Shit like that. Trying to figure out atoms, I think is what he was trying. But he was doing it from an alchemical fucking point of view, too. Philosophy.
Which kind of fell in the gray area between science and woo-woo.
Although had you shown him actual chemistry, had he known what a molecule or an atom was, it would have changed the game.
It probably,
He didn't know back then.
It probably would have made sense. And he was kind of like, I don't want to say he was a victim of his time, but he was just kind of like a man of his time.
He was trapped in the framework of his time.
If you could bring him to the modern era and show him stuff, I kind of feel like, but they'd probably all be freaked out because it's, a big difference. But I kind of feel like scientists would be better prepared to, like, understand shit.
You could probably...
than a regular ass person.
You could probably show Isaac what the fucking deal was, and you could put him right into fucking science again, and he'd come up with some shit. He was very intelligent, super intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Weird, too, and probably gay. He's kind of gay-coded. Wanted nothing to do with women.
Either that. I got the vibe from reading a couple books about him that he was maybe more, like, asexual. Like, he didn't really have...
Gay. He
didn't really have any interest at all.
Gay.
In anybody.
He was religious. What it is he liked guys. He didn't want to be a sinner.
And he didn't want to, yeah. So maybe that's, so he just, like, suppressed that shit, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's what you did back then, sadly.
Yeah. He didn't want to be in bad standing with God. So he just shut that shit down. I would say he's gay.
I mean, he might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, it just seemed like he was so into his shit.
No straight man's going to want to be celibate. Especially he was a good-looking dude, and had money.
Yeah.
Nah.
Stardog said Isaac Newton was the original Secret Service.
Kind of was.
He was kind of.
Yeah.
It's like I said, he's a really interesting.
Yeah.
I would like to do a show about him one of these days. Maybe not just about the alchemy, but the counterfeiting stuff is interesting too. So Yale University, like I said, huge deal. It actually awarded the first PhD ever in the United States. That was in 1861. And eventually became Yale University in 1887. Obviously, nowadays they have like a bunch of other schools. They've expanded out. They have a Yale Law School. They have a School of Medicine. They have a drama school. All kind of shit. So, you know, many people important, very influential in American life have graduated from Yale. Probably more Harvard, because I kind of feel like Harvard is kind of like the gold standard, but Yale is kind of in there too. However, one thing that a lot of people are fascinated by is, of course, their secret societies. Most famous of these, obviously, which we're going to talk more about on the show, is Skull and Bones, which was founded in 1832. But they have a bunch of other ones, some of which I earlier mentioned. Scroll and Key, which was founded in 1842. Kind of a more intellectual focus than Skull and Bones, and maybe more focused on like international relations, that kind of stuff. Probably the most famous members of Scroll and Key being Dean Acheson, who was the U.S. Secretary of State, one of the key architects of the Cold War policy. Cyrus Vance, who was the Secretary of State under Carter. Gary Hart, most of you remember probably from the sex scandal, but you know, yeah, he was a senator and ran for president. What fucking year was that? 84?
Who?
Gary Hart.
Yeah, I remember that. Around 84.
Remember that? And then like
I think it was 84.
what was the name of that? There was some kind of sex scandal like on a boat or something.
Man, so long ago.
That was back in the 80s. Maybe it was
Nowadays,
88.
nobody would have even given a shit.
No, of course not.
He was fooling around on his wife, right?
I mean, they probably shouldn't have given a shit back then either, but
it was a boomer audience.
of all the shit that you could, I mean, I'm not saying it's cool to cheat on your wife. It's not. But I'm just saying that of all the shit that politicians could be doing, that's relatively mild.
And yeah, and here's the thing, man. They were always wild. The political game, they were all hucksters and wild motherfuckers. And Alex Jones said the best looking hookers he ever saw worked in the Washington D.C. area, that worked for guys in the fucking House and the Senate. Just the escorts. He said the escorts were just stunners, like something out of Miss America. I totally buy that, totally, because they would, of course, they would have the best hookers, and the wives probably, you know, like, well, you know, I'm just along for the ride. Hey, he's making all kinds of money.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that sometimes when you see this, like I said, yeah, it's fucked up to cheat on your wife, but like I said, you don't know
Sometimes the wives don't give a shit.
Like I said, you don't know the context. Like maybe the wife is just kind of like fine, whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she doesn't care. And
She might have some on
She
the side.
also has some on the side too. Like
Fucking around with some Paige,
They might-
19-year-old Paige.
Yeah,
You know?
so you don't know.
You don't know.
you don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, it's shitty if she doesn't know about it and it's embarrassing and stuff. But it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's embarrassing for her anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying you don't know what the situation is. So I tend to like sexual scandals like that. Like I said, unless it's somebody underage, which is obviously really fucked up, or unless it's you know, sexual assault or like without people's consent, obviously that is fucked up and illegal. But if it's consenting shit like the Clinton thing, it's like who fucking cares, man? I don't care.
I mentioned the bitch fucking many times on the show, told stories. He's a funny motherfucker. He's a local businessman who's a friend of ours, goes to the club all the time. He's married, all right? But he's got fucking escorts with him all the time. And you look at him, you're like, come on, man. He's overweight, dude. He's older. And he's with these fucking thinner, good-looking young...
He's a
young
good dude,
chicks that
dude.
Jen
He's
ends
funny.
up making out with, and he gets pissed off because he paid for that shit.
He does get a little mad.
But the thing is that
I don't do it on purpose. It just kind of happens.
Jen will fucking suck fucking escort will be all over her. But here's the thing. And she was like, I want to hang out with you guys later. You know? But anyway, fucking, his wife knows and doesn't care.
Yeah, they have a agreement.
So that's
which, like
very,
I said,
very common. That's very, very common. And she comes to clubs sometimes too. When
yeah, she comes out every now and
When
then.
she comes out, he doesn't have anybody with her.
She's a really nice person. I
Yeah,
like
she's
her.
nice. It's just, when you know who we're talking about, why would you want to burden her with servicing that motherfucker?
True, I get it.
all the fucking time? You know what I mean?
It's like she's not getting paid.
Yeah, I mean he's funny. We like him, okay, but he's a fucking character, and that would fucking
Yeah.
that would get on you, you know?
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Come on, man."
I like that girl he brings with him sometimes.
Yeah,
though.
he's got a regular one that he brings, and yeah.
Sometimes he has different ones, but
Yeah.
like the last few times he's brought like the same one.
Yeah.
And I like her. She's
Yeah, that one's trying to hang out with us.
Yeah.
And not for contract. She just wants to hang out off duty. She wants to hang out off duty.
Which that's fine.
Yeah, she's good.
Like I said, I'm not making
They be out there
anybody...
making out. He got so fucking pissed.
And I'm not
And I
making
was like,
anybody
dude, what the
do
fuck?
anything.
What are your problem? Look how hot that is. What are you fucking worried about? He's I paid it. I'm gonna go to the restroom. Getting jealous. You're fucking cucking him out, Jeff.
Like I said, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it just happened.
It just happens. Like I said, I'm not a predator or nothing. It's just kind of shit happens. You know what I mean? Shit happens. So yeah. So what was the other one I was talking about? Yeah, we were talking about Gary Hart, and then we got like all fucking. So if you weren't alive back then, it was like a huge fucking scandal. Yeah, Donna Rice. That was her name. Some shit on a boat. There was some pictures of him on a yacht or some shit. I don't remember what the fuck happened. Yeah, he ran for president, but he lost. Was that 88? Shit. I was alive and I can't even remember. That was a long time ago. So there's another one, as I mentioned earlier, called Wolf's Head. That was founded in 1883. They kind of pride themselves on being like kind of more, I don't want to say like the more punk rock secret society, but they're like less elitist, I guess, than because you know Skull and Bones is kind of seen as like super elitist. So they're kind of like less than that. Probably their most famous members, the only one of the famous members that I looked at that I'd heard of was James Whitmore, who was an actor. Like, he's won some Emmys and Tonys and stuff. Like, I'd heard of him. But, like, some of the other people I hadn't really heard of, sadly. Like, William Sloane Coffin, who's, like, a civil rights activist. Like, he was a member. Like, shit like that. Like, a Princeton professor who's, like, an author. Samuel Hines, like, he was a member of it. Wolf's Head.
Do you know it is still light out there?
Well,
There's
yeah.
still a sliver of fucking light.
I know.
Man, it takes forever to get dark. It's past 9. It's still light out here.
Well, yeah, it's getting to be summertime.
I know.
And it'll just, like,
We're
just
just
get...
hitting 9.
It'll be later and later until June 21st or 22nd, whenever the summer solstice is. That's how that
Been here
works.
for years. I still can't get used to it.
I know, it's weird.
Yeah.
Well, it was just kind of like the first time I went to the UK, and like it was wintertime, and it was getting dark at like 4 o'clock. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Even here, like in the wintertime, it doesn't get dark that early. Okay, so there's another one called Book and Snake, which was founded in 1863, which is kind of a more spiritual, philosophical kind of group. Some of their famous members were Henry Stimson, who was Secretary of War under Roosevelt and Truman. William Lyon Mackenzie King, who was a Prime Minister of Canada. Charles Taft, who was the mayor of Cincinnati, who was the brother of President William Howard Taft. You know, the fat one. That's like the only thing people remember about Taft. Didn't he get stuck in a bathtub? Yeah. Richard Bissell, CIA operative, key figure in the Bay of Pigs planning. So he was in not Skull and Bones. This was Book and Snake. This was another one. Like I said, I don't know why they don't talk about these other ones. Berzelius, founded in 1848. Kind of, again, more on the intellectual, I guess, nerdy side. Some of their members were Paul Mellon, philanthropist, National Gallery patron. David McCullough, who was a historian who won a Pulitzer Prize, reportedly. They don't know if he was actually in it or not. Couple scholars, George DeForest Lord, Strobe Talbot, who was the president of the Brookings Institution. Then there is Elihu, named after, that was like the first name of, you know, the Yale guy that the university was named after. This one's kind of more semi-secret, but tends to be more inclusive, again, like less elitist than Skull and Bones is seen to be. Some of the members, probably the most famous one, Jared Kushner, who was a former White House advisor. Although there is some controversy about whether he was actually in it or not, but he was actually reported to be in there. Then there was one called Manuscript, which was founded in 1952, and that's kind of your more artistic secret society. They don't really say like who was in it, but it tends to attract a lot of artists, performers, writers, actors, that kind of thing. And then there's one called Saint Elmo from the 1960s. And that one, I think probably the most famous person in it, Robert D. Hormats, Secretary of State for Economic Growth. So that was kind of like the most famous person there. Like, so influential people, but not super like household names or anything.
Let me ask you something.
What's that?
Behind all these posts, why is there numbers 1, 2, and 3? What's that?
Well,
about?
we had a whole conversation about that.
I wasn't
earlier.
there for that.
Yeah, you were. You were sitting right there.
I was probably listening to it.
You were sitting right there.
Well, you gonna give me another explanation?
Well, we haven't figured it out because I just said I don't really know, and then somebody said,
Yeah.
Well, now I have to back up and fucking look. I don't remember where somebody said what it was because they looked up what it was.
They looked up what it was. Okay.
Oh, Papa says, it looks like the crown and points are a way to hype your guys' show, get it more views, and share it with more people. Okay, so that must be a new thing that YouTube is doing. They must have just started it because I've never seen it.
Yeah, we got a new person in the chat named Swarm to Truth. And his posts are kind of interesting from the very beginning, having to do with numerology, having to do with all this kind of stuff. Maybe we might revisit that later. I don't know.
I don't know a huge amount about numerology, so...
Yeah, you're talking about 33 years. That's from 9/11. And 1968 was also the year fucking Muhammad Atta was born. 1968, WTC construction began. 9/11. He's trying to tie all this stuff together through numbers. Yeah, interesting, but probably nothing to do with it. I mean, fucking. There's all kinds of fucking weird things. You can do a lot of weird shit with number games.
Well, sometimes you can find patterns where there aren't any.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for that,
right.
You have to really watch. Yeah, Papa77 says the more we hype their videos, the more points they and we get.
All right.
So if you click on it, it shows the community leaderboard. Okay. So
That's
like
weird.
I said,
that might be something new.
It's got to be a new thing. Because like I said, we just did a live stream on Monday night and it wasn't doing that. I've never seen that before ever. They didn't inform me either. Usually I get an email being like, hey, we're doing this new thing. I don't know. I'll look it up. All right. So there's another one. These are kind of your more, I think they call them landed societies, which are ones that are like, I don't know, like officially endorsed or whatever. Although Skull and Bones in particular, and I think like the other landed societies are private institutions, private businesses. Like, they're privately funded. They're not, they have like, buildings that they meet in and stuff like that, like on the Yale campus, but they're not subsidized by Yale, I don't believe. I know Skull and Bones isn't. They have their own source of income. So, they have their own grants or whatever. So it's kind of like a separate thing. But there's also one called Mason Chain, which was founded in 1956, and is kind of like a lot more diverse, like more open to different kinds of members. And they don't really divulge like who their members are either. And there are other ones that are not landed. There's one called Sage and Chalice. There's one called Shabtai, stuff like that. There's ones that are kind of more based around, here's one for Jewish students, and here's one for women, and here's one for, you know what I mean? So it's like just different things, like different interests and whatever. So they have like all kinds of different ones. But like I said, those kind of 9 or 10 are like the main landed ones, like I said, that have been there for like a long time. So Skull and Bones, as I mentioned, was founded in 1832. Now, it was started by 2 seniors, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft, who was the father of the future U.S. President, William Howard Taft. And the story goes that they were just not happy with the existing debating societies. That's what they kind of wanted to start it as at Yale. So they decided they were going to start their own. So Russell had studied in Germany and was kind of really into the European secret societies. And so he thought, hey, maybe we could do something like that here. That would be like a cool idea. Now, the society was originally not called Skull and Bones. It was called I guess it's Eulogian Club, after Eulogia, who was a goddess of eloquence. A fictional god. Well, I mean, they're all fictional, but I mean, like one that's not really part of the canon. It was just like one they made up kind of thing. Yeah. So it was a goddess like of eloquence, and they named it after her. But they kept that name for a little while, and then they decided to call it Skull and Bones, and decided to adopt the skull and crossbones imagery that they still have to this day, and that was kind of their official symbol, which it still is. Now, the number 322 also became kind of closely associated with society. If you see their logo that says skull and crossbones, it says 322 on the bottom. And there's no one's entirely sure like what the 322 means.
Some kind of inside reference.
Well, they think it's either something to do with like the founding year, which was 1832, and it's ties to Greek organizations. But there's also speculation that 322 refers to the alleged year of the death of the Greek orator Demosthenes, who was like a big hero of theirs. So it could be referring to that. No one's entirely sure. So they have this windowless sandstone building on the Yale campus where they do their meetings, and it's called The Tomb. And this was built in 1856 and has been expanded several times since then. And the outside of it, they don't have skulls and shit on the outside. It's cool looking, but it's not like super ornate or anything. However, if you are not a member of Skull and Bones, you are not allowed to go inside. They don't... Now, because the members themselves are so secretive, no one's entirely sure, like, what the fuck is in there. But stories have been like, there are skulls of famous historical figures in there, which we'll get to in a bit. And a bunch of weird, like, ritual paraphernalia, things like that. So no one's entirely sure what it looks like in there because people that are in Skull and Bones don't really talk about Skull and Bones, much like Fight Club. Now, every school year, Skull and Bones does what they call tapping. They will tap 15 Yale juniors to become new members, which, as I said earlier, are called Bonesmen. Now, you're tapped in your junior year, but you don't actually serve until your senior year. This is seniors only, Skull and Bones is. Not sure about the other secret societies, but this one is. So they usually pick the 15 people in the incoming class that are seen as kind of like class leaders, I guess, of various kinds. Usually it'll be kind of like, the captain of the football team or, somebody that's, I don't know, just like some kind of like high up intellectual something, or it's, it's like usually just like the class leader type people. Like, they have to be super special. And how much influence they have and how many connections they have and stuff like that. And they will usually tap these 15 people. You can refuse. You don't have to do it. I think, who was it? One senator or something like that. I think it was maybe Joe Lieberman. Like, I think he was asked to be in it and he said no. Because I think at the time they asked him, like, they didn't allow black people, and he didn't really like that, so he said, nah, I don't really want to be in there. But yeah, so you can say no, and some people have, but they will pick 15 people that they think are worthy of them or whatever, and then they will tap them. Now, historically, obviously, like most other things, the tapping was limited to white Protestant men, but obviously in recent years it has become a lot more inclusive, although it did not admit women until the 1990s. And even though, they put it to a vote, and, the majority did vote to admit women, but some people, including William F. Buckley, who was a Bonesman, did not like this and locked everybody out of the tomb when the vote didn't go his way. Because he really did not want ladies in Skull and Bones.
Guarantee you the original thing about fucking white Anglo-Saxon, what they were talking about, they were trying to keep Jews out. That's probably what it was.
Yeah, they didn't. They actually didn't admit Jewish people until
during that time, no Jews
until later.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do now, obviously, but they didn't for a very long time.
There weren't any black people in Yale, so they weren't worried.
No, there are now, and like I said, I think as far as I could determine, like I said, they don't really super publicize like who got in, but as far as I know, this past year, I think there was more black people in this past one than like any other.
There was a lot of shit that was banned to Jews in my lifetime. There were country clubs and shit, social clubs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and golf courses where
it's crazy.
You can't be a member if you're Jewish.
Crazy.
Yeah. And that was when I was a kid. 70s.
Yeah, which is 70s, which isn't really that long ago.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's like women couldn't even have a credit card in their own name until what, like 1974? That's in my lifetime. That is insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And maybe later.
The Jews were the out group, man. Back in
those days. Well, yeah. Like I said, everyone was the out groups except for fucking white dudes. Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier when he was talking about like Epstein Island and Bohemian Grove and stuff like that. Skull and Bones does actually have their own little bitty island. It's 40 acres, and it's called Deer Island. Doesn't have like a cool badass name or anything like that. It's just called Deer Island. It's in the St. Lawrence River. And they go there, like all the Bonesmen go there, like at the end of the summer, like over the summer, like to kind of hang out and stuff. The hilarious thing is that evidently this place was like pretty cool, like back in the day. Like it had tennis courts and softball fields and all, and it was all like landscaped and everything like that. But from what I heard lately is that really like all the buildings on it and shit like that nowadays are just kind of like a ruin. So there was one member, I think he remained anonymous, as most people do, because if you get caught like talking about it, like the other members kind of shun you. So people do talk about it, but on the condition that their name not be used. So one guy did say, he's like, well, rustic is probably like putting it too kindly. He's like, it's pretty much a ruin. So you go to this island, you're pretty much like camping out. You know what I mean? Whereas I think before, back in the day, it was kind of fancy, but now it's not anymore. It's just like camping out. But they do still, as far as I know, like go there every summer, like, to hang out, like have like a little camping trip or whatever, get to know one another before the school year. So they spend like a week there in the summer. So the initiation rituals into Skull and Bones are pretty legendary, I guess, in the sense that because of how secretive they are. Now, there have been some common threads, though, that have kind of leaked out over the years. One of the main things is, as I mentioned earlier, kind of similar to Scientology, where you're sort of like supposed to, or you're made to confess your personal histories, your entire sexual histories, and just like everything about yourself. Like you're supposed to just like kind of lay yourself completely bare to everybody. So this is supposedly happens on it's a ritual called Initiation Night. And again, this is supposedly done because, you're being completely vulnerable. You're sharing all your secrets with all these people. So it's like supposed to form a bond. Although, like I said, they could have blackmail material on you in case you decided to go rogue or something. So that's kind of like, that's another reason they probably do it. But yeah, it's probably like sort of like mock rituals with some occult trappings, religious trappings, shit like that. No one's entirely sure because, like I said, a lot of people don't talk about it, but there have been some things that have leaked out over the years. Now, obviously, Skull and Bones has had some very powerful members, which, again, kind of fuels a lot of the conspiracy theories about them. Most famously, a couple of three presidents, actually, George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush were both in Skull and Bones, as was William Howard Taft. John Kerry, who he was a Secretary of State and the presidential nominee, Democratic presidential nominee in 2004, was also in Skull and Bones. Like I said, I kind of feel like Skull and Bones really got a huge boost in 2004 because Bush and Kerry were both Bonesmen, and so I think that kind of like fueled a lot of the conspiracy theories about it at the time. But over the years, out of all the presidents, only 3 presidents have been Bonesmen. Only 3. So
a lot of CIA were, though. From what I heard,
a
maybe
lot,
it's not true.
A lot weren't too.
Well, yeah, a lot weren't. But I'm just saying they had a presence in the CIA and the intelligence agencies. I don't know if they were always ended up being the directors. I think a few of the directors of the CIA were, but most of them weren't.
Yeah, but most of them weren't. Yeah. There was also another guy, Austin.
Because I think the Big Bush, huh?
Yeah.
George Bush won.
HW and W were both Skull and Bones.
Both Skull and Bones, but the Big Bush, he was director of the CIA, if I remember correctly.
He was, yeah.
Before he became president.
Yeah. Which
means that there were other ones in there.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that because, like I said, but it's not as many as you might think.
Okay.
Like I said, I think people just like, ooh, people in power and stuff like that, but literally only 3 presidents have been Bonesmen. Only 3.
Skull and Bones was one of the power centers. There was a lot of other ones. That's
what I'm saying.
They're just rich boy cliques.
Like I said, I think people focus on Skull and Bones because of its occult appearance because it looks cool and it's creepy and shit like that. So
it was goth.
Yeah. So I think people are kind of fascinated with it because of that. But I think they also maintain that aura of mystery about it and that gothiness about it because they know that people have that idea.
It's a way of promoting self-promotion.
Sure.
And to get some gravitas.
Yeah.
Some style. Panache. Panache.
Yeah.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's why it's still around. The other ones you're talking about, they're not around anymore because,
Yeah.
They were meh in terms of their PR.
Well, like I said, Yale still has like a fuck ton of secret societies.
Yeah, but no, they're not known.
But they're not as known as Skull and Bones is.
I guarantee you go to Yale, it's hard to get in Skull and Bones. I bet you that's
you have to get tapped. Yeah. They have to pick you.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You can't just waltz up there and be like, hey, I want to be in Skull and Bones. They have to pick you.
I bet you that's the hardest one to end up in.
It is. It's the oldest and also the most prestigious.
Right.
There are other ones.
Right.
And I'm not sure if they all operate the same way. But Skull and Bones they make a list of like the 15 most influential, most powerful, like whatever, most popular, whatever people, and then they approach those people. And I'm sure they probably have backups because some of those people might say no, they don't want to do it, but because people have turned them down.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So we have some presidents. Like I said, there was also Austin Goolsbee, who was a presidential advisor and an economist. You also have Stephen A. Schwartzman, who was of the Blackstone Group, and Harold Stanley, who was co-founder of Morgan Stanley. He was also a Bonesman. And you also have Henry Luce, who was the co-founder of Time magazine and a bunch of other magazines. I think Sports Illustrated, like a bunch of other magazines too, like huge media mogul. He was a Bonesman also. So, as I mentioned, I kind of feel like these are all obviously coming from very wealthy families. And if you are influential enough, powerful enough, popular enough to get tapped, you get in this inner circle and they do these weird rituals that no one knows exactly what they are, but it forges some kind of bond between all these people so that they continue to do favors for each other going forward, which, like I said, sounds nefarious, but that's just networking. That's just what regular people do, Yeah, it's more nefarious when rich people do it because it affects a lot more people than just when regular people do it, but it's the same thing. They're just trying to consolidate their power. Like I said, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying
they're operating at a different level.
Sure.
You're a peasant. You got to understand. Yeah. We are all peasants, and those are the chiefs, and we're the Indians.
Basically. Pretty much.
Yeah.
But they supposedly have all these fucking code names and do all these rituals with skeletons and all this other kind of shit. Like I said, hazing kind of shit. They don't really release what they do. I think they usually have meetings on Thursday night, which I think most of the secret societies do. But nobody really knows what goes on in there because, like I said, you're not allowed to go in there unless you're a member into the tomb. When they do tap day, when they pick, the 15 people that they want to be in there, that's kind of a more public thing. Everybody knows about that, but that's pretty much the only thing that everybody knows about. So, as I mentioned, because of their secrecy and because of their perceived, a lot of powerful people coming out of Skull and Bones, there are a lot of conspiracy theories about them. Some of them wackier than others, But there's shit about, them founding the CIA, which...
No.
Not really, no. Or being, behind the New World Order, or that it operates as a shadow government, which, again, probably no. Also... been rumors, and a little weirder, that they are a branch of the Illuminati, that they were behind the Kennedy assassination, or that they were responsible for creating the nuclear bomb.
No, I don't think so.
Which, that sounds a little. That sounds a little crazy. So,
they didn't create the CIA.
No,
because the CIA was actually a copy of the British fucking, what was that thing during fucking World War II? OSS. The OSS came first in the United States said, well, we need to have something kind of like that during World War II. And then the CIA came from that, even though it was a lot different than the OSS, but no. CIA was British inspired.
Yeah.
From the OSS came James Bond. Ian Fleming was in the OSS. And ended up becoming what? MI5? MI6? Something like that?
Yeah, what's the difference between MI5 and
might have been
MI6? I'm not
MI5.
super clear on that.
MI6, yeah. It was actually had a genesis in British naval intelligence. And that's where Ian Fleming came from and all the spy shit. He's having fun with those stories, but there's a grain of truth in a lot of that stuff. Spectre and all those guys, he's talking about Club of Rome, and gangs of oligarchs that ended up setting up the EU. That's what he's talking about. Fucking multinational and NGOs, and from that came NGOs. Fleming would call that Spectre because it's unelected and it's operating on its own for its own fucking glory and enrichment and power.
But like I said, I don't think that's good. I just don't think it's any different from what's always gone on.
Well, in the past, kings made decisions.
Yeah,
and then republics and governments made decisions. But over time, NGOs started to make decisions, which are supranational organizations, like the UN and all the mercenary organizations the UN's have created using the fucking money of oligarchs. European ones and American ones. It's multinational. And then they start dictating to elected governments how they're going to fucking do things. So, no, it's not good. No. All that stuff needs to stop. There really shouldn't be NGOs. Because they subvert democracy. It goes against the will of the voters.
SideQuest Hero has arrived.
What's up, SideQuest?
How you doing, SideQuest? CB says, unfortunately, some of the people in secret societies are batshit. Well, yeah, I mean, a percentage of people just in regular life are batshit. And I kind of feel like probably a higher percentage in secret societies because people that are batshit are going to be naturally attracted to this kind of thing, I guess, like to some degree. So, yeah, you might get more weirdos in here than you would get just in regular groups. So, yeah, so all these conspiracy theories, there's been a couple books about them. Documentaries and stuff. Alexandra Robbins wrote one called Secrets of the Tomb, and Ron Rosenbaum did one. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a bit. He did a big, long article for Esquire where a lot of stuff came out. And as I mentioned earlier, there was also a movie that came out in 2000 that was called The Skulls that was kind of loosely based on Skull and Bones as well. Obviously, there isn't really any concrete evidence supporting particularly the kind of more extreme claims, like the Kennedy assassination thing and all of that, or the nuclear bomb thing. But, I mean, it is probably... I mean, you can't argue that obviously really powerful people will come out of there, and, how you feel about that, that's something. Like I said, I don't know if it's a conspiracy in the strictest sense, but I can see where people get that idea. So... obviously Skull and Bones is still around, but I don't think, particularly because of the influence of the internet and things of that nature, I don't think that they have the same kind of influence that they used to have. You don't really hear them brought up as much. Like I said, I kind of feel like the peak of that was 2004 because both presidential candidates were Skull and Bones, so people were like acting like it was this big fucking deal, even though, like I said, there have only been 3 presidents that were in that. But yeah, so... I kind of feel like, okay, so one of the most pervasive conspiracy theories suggests that Skull and Bones is a front or a recruiting ground for the New World Order, NWO, which every time I see that, I always think of that fucking Ministry song.
Yeah. With Bush, Big Bush, talking about the New World Order.
New World Order.
The New World Order.
Yeah, the song's called NWO.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, and the New World Order, it's kind of this shadowy, like Spectre, kind of like you said, sort of, allegedly.
Kinda.
Orchestrating global events to establish, like, a one-world government, largely authoritarian.
That's not what George Bush was not talking about the kind of New World Order that Spectre is talking about, or Ian Fleming's talking about with Spectre, though. George Bush Sr. is talking about a new world order in which the United States is the global hegemon. And it and its allies dictate to the rest of the fucking world what the rules-based global order is going to be when it comes to fucking trade and behavior. All this shit came about when they decided to jump on Iraq. Which is strange because fucking Saddam was one of our creations. He worked for the United States for a long time. He was a good ally.
He did, yes.
And we betrayed him. If you ever become an ally of the United States, you're soon to be killed. That's just the fucking pattern.
Well, they just wanted to go after him. Like I said, if you wanted to go after the 9/11 hijackers, they were all Saudi Arabians. Yeah. But it's just kind of like...
who are allies.
But let's attack Iraq instead.
Yeah. It's just because...
Made-up shit.
It's made-up shit. They thought they could bring a Western democracy to the Middle East that has no heritage of that. They want religion. They want Islam. They want a theocracy. They do well under theocracy. Saddam was a fucking secular government, and he was a secular ruler, and he was basically National Socialist. Ba'ath Party. The Ba'ath Party was created by the Nazi Party in World War II, which is National Socialist. So they were kind of like Nazis, but not quite. They were still anti-Jewish, but they didn't have Jews around to fuck with. They really didn't fuck with anybody except religious extremists, Muslims. That was one of the things we hired him to do, was to fucking take care of Iran. But he invaded Kuwait, and there were oil interests and big money involved, so, we gotta get rid of him. But he had asked us, is it okay if I fucking invade Kuwait? And our embassy said, there's probably no problem. We really don't care about Quran. He goes, yeah, because they're slant drilling. They're slant drilling across the border into my land, and they owe me money, so I'm just going to go ahead and annex that little country. And our fucking embassy said, yeah, okay, I don't think it'd be a problem. He did it, and the next thing you know, the fucking Bushes and the Saudis are like, wait a minute, hold on. He now controls the fucking lion's share of the fucking oil. So,
it's like,
didn't you now a threat, no. My advice to you, if you're a foreigner, is do not trust the United States. Never become an ally with it. It kills every ally that it has.
We kind of suck, honestly.
Yeah, because they only care about themselves. Washington, D.C. only cares about itself. And the oligarchs it works for.
Most of the people are okay.
Oh, the people are fine. It's just that
we're kind of dicks.
Our government works for the rich people. That's that, and they don't even care if those rich people are American or not. It's a mercenary. It'll work for European rich people. It'll work for Saudi rich people. Just whoever the rich people are, that's who the government and all the intelligence agencies are going to side by side. Because you're just a poor fuck. You can't do anything for them. They've fucking outsourced your jobs and shipped them off of China. What are you? You're just a hungry mouth to feed, really. That's what, right now we're in a revolution. This is going to go on for fucking 30 years. And the United States will be unrecognizable in 10. I predicted, I said it over and over again, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And the borders are going to change because the United States is being held together by Washington, D.C. There's 50 fucking different countries here called states. And they all have their own constitutions and their own fucking makeup, own demographic makeup. I have a belief that the United States is going to break up probably into three new countries. California will probably be its own country. The New England states will probably join the EU or Canada or some shit like that. And then the third one in the middle will be the United States. The South and the Midwest. That'll be the United States. It'll just be a new union. But it'll be like it is now. Just kind of... But... Okay, now we're back to this.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just feeling that.
Okay. Man, I had to pee worse than I thought.
I was fucking going right through me. We're drinking apple juice.
It's good for you.
Apple juice with vodka in it, and it goes down
vitamins
very easily.
And alcohol. So the whole New World Order thing, like I said, I kind of feel like that came from mostly the Bush Association, and particularly the 2004 election when Kerry, the Democratic candidate who was running against him, was also a Bonesman. So I kind of feel like, the NWO, they're taking over. And, because of the occult rituals they use that some people associate with Freemasons, which, you know, or Illuminati or whatever. So I kind of feel like people were getting into that. But, you know, it should go without saying that obviously there's no definitive proof of any of this. And I kind of feel like a lot of the theories kind of rest on just circumstantial associations and maybe, like I said, a little bit of pattern recognition, because that's kind of what people's brains do, rather than any kind of like fucking proof or anything like that. Oh my god!
Well, what was that?
SideQuest Hero sent us a huge super chat. God damn!
Yeah, thank you very much, SideQuest.
Thank you very much.
You're gonna get laid for that. You're gonna get laid for that.
I mean,
she's gonna come down.
Probably not by us because we're far away.
You live too far away. Go ahead.
If you came here, it might happen.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no,
I'm just teasing.
Never can. What'd she say?
It's like, it's been a while since I showed some appreciation. Thank you so much. That is so nice of you.
She was going on about fucking. She's an ex-army lesbian chick friend of mine. Fucking, and we talk off the show too. And she was going on about fucking NGOs. And fucking how corrupt they were and the shit that they were doing. It was a way of getting around government. There are just these mercenary organizations that start wars. That's what they do. And it's been going on in the United States since the time of the Banana Wars. It's just, the United States has been fucking corrupt for a long time. They could get away with it because there was no internet. But now everybody knows. You know,
I mean, they're still corrupt. It's just that
they're corrupt. It's going to take a long time.
Now everybody knows about it, but you just can't do much about it.
No, you can do shit about it, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time to straighten it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
You have to make certain things illegal.
I mean, we might be okay. We'll see how.
It's going to take 30 years to fix it.
We'll see how shit goes. I'm not super optimistic, but I'm not like pessimistic either. I'm just waiting to see what happens.
It's going to take 30 years probably.
Papa sent us another super chat.
What's
also, hey, I didn't get an offer to get laid when we laid down $100
You already
super
hooked
chat.
up. We got a whole sex cult over there where you are. Hot wives and hot husbands and shit.
I mean, if y'all want to get laid too, that's fine.
Your girlfriend, her husband, and
you're
all
just gonna
your
bring the whole
girlfriends. You come out,
entourage,
your whole entourage,
down
all backing it down, fucking motorboats, nude sunbathing and shit, with your bellies out, and fucking beer and shit, fucking.
We'll have to take him to the sex club that
take
we've
you to
never
the
been
sex
to.
club. You'll be twerking on the end of the bow of the boat.
That we'll go to one of these days just to see what it's like. I guess.
Yeah.
If it wasn't so expensive.
Yeah, they just want a lot for a membership.
They do.
For a restaurant. Yeah.
All right.
I'll talk to fucking my ex about it.
Yeah, we'll just ask
I'll
her.
Ask her about it.
Like what it's like, because I don't, I'm kind of interested in going, but not just getting with a bunch of randos. I just want to see what it's like. You know what I mean? CB says, "Okay, got work tomorrow, so see everyone on Fridays. Sidetrack. Okay, have a good sleep. Have a good day tomorrow. We'll see you later. Thanks for dropping by." Straw Dog says the United Fruit Company overthrew the democratically elected leader of Honduras with some mercenaries and surplus U.S. boats. Yes, that is true. And they don't really teach that in American school, or at least they didn't when I was there. You know what I mean? For obvious reasons. I read about it later on. But yeah, they totally did that. Junebug Film says, hello, first joining live, long time. Would have loved a video on John Bonet case. I don't believe the family did it. I think we did a video on John Bonet Ramsey, but it's been a long time. That it kind of feels like we probably should do a revisit on that. I don't really think the family did it either, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I don't remember all the details offhand because it's been so long since we did it, but I remember kind of coming down on the thing of like I didn't really think the family did it either. But just saying. But we did do a show about it. I just don't remember when it was. We've done almost 500 shows at this point. So it's like sometimes we forget like what we did. So the NWO thing, yeah, obviously that's a little bit kind of maybe... It's not out there because I kind of feel like I know where people get the idea from. Kind of a more realistic theory, if you want to call it that. Is that Skull and Bones has been a pipeline into...
See you around sidetrack. He's got to go. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not side.
CB.
Yeah. Yeah, I addressed that already. Yeah. Into American intelligence agencies, particularly the CIA. Now, it is true that many bonesmen have worked in intelligence. James Angleton, who was one of the founding figures of the CIA's counterintelligence division, was a bonesman. And George H.W. Bush was the CIA director in the 1970s. He was also a bonesman. But like I said, a lot of people involved in the CIA are bonesmen, but a lot of the people involved with the CIA are not also. So I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not really sure how fucking relevant it is. So I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that it was kind of a pipeline into intelligence agencies. You could probably do a thing where it's like how many people that work in the like in higher positions in the CIA or whatever intelligence agencies. Like whatever percentage of people like are bonesmen, you know, and contrast that with how many people are in prominent positions that aren't bonesmen. And I don't know the numbers offhand, but I bet that more of them aren't than are. So while it's true that several prominent people in intelligence have been members of Skull and Bones, a lot of prominent people in intelligence have not been also. So I think that's kind of some important context. That's all I'm saying. Now, one of the weirdest things, I don't even know if this is so much it's not even so much a conspiracy theory because I don't know if it's like kind of a thing, but a lot of people talk about this. So one thing that Skull and Bones, I guess, you know, true to their name, have a lot of rumors about is that they steal skulls of famous people. Now, probably the most famous one is Geronimo, the Apache warrior. The story goes that Prescott Bush, who was the father of George H.W. Bush, dug up, it wasn't just him, but it was like him and other Skull and Bones members. They dug up Geronimo's grave in Fort Sill, Oklahoma in 1918 and stole his skull and like a bunch of other bones and like brought them back to the tomb where they allegedly still reside to this day.
Prescott Bush was also a Bund member, if I remember correctly. Remember the German Bund?
Yeah.
Remember that? I think he was also a Bund member. That's funny. Uh-huh. The Bund was the American kind of Nazi adjacent.
Yeah.
Party from it.
Yeah, they had some. The Bush family going back had Nazi ties.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, like Fritz Kuhn. If you know who Fritz Kuhn is. We got somebody in there who's been a long time listener, said they just finally got it.
Yeah, they were asking about the John Bonet case, and I said we did a show about it, although
we did John Bonet. Yeah.
We might, I don't know, like I said, might do a revisit one of these days.
Did John Bonet case? He thinks the family didn't do it. I think the older brother did it, and
maybe
then the family were covering for him. That's what I think happened.
Maybe
whoever did it was inside that house.
Maybe
and I'm gonna say it's probably the older brother.
Could be, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember all the details offhand, so I'm not gonna
They were playing doctor, and he killed her. Something like that.
Yeah, like if that did happen, I think it was an accident. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not really sure if that happened or not. But yeah, so
it was something along that lines.
Yeah. So supposedly they have Geronimo's skull, and in a letter written in 2006, which was allegedly written by someone who was a Skull and Bones member, says that there is a skull in the tomb that says Geronimo, like on the label or whatever. Doesn't say Abby Normal. Yeah. It says Geronimo on it.
Yeah, I ain't buying it.
Yeah.
I ain't buying it. Those dudes had access.
However, the U.S. Army has denied that Geronimo's grave has been dug up or disturbed in any way. So, again, probably just a rumor. But the rumor was so prevalent that in 2009, Geronimo's descendants sued Skull and Bones, like saying that they had Geronimo's shit. But
they lost that suit, I'm mad.
Well, the case was dismissed because they said there's just not enough evidence to show that the shit was stolen. So,
those boys had access to fucking medical cadavers. They just got some skull out of some fucking medical fucking part of the university and put that in there, put the Geronimo's name on it. Man, Geronimo's dead. He's buried.
Because the thing about it is, like, skulls, you could get skulls from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, skulls are easy to get.
And you can't identify them just by looking at them. You can say that, like, belongs to fucking anybody.
You need DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it, though, now it is true that Skull and Bones members, they kind of have a thing for stealing stuff from other Yale societies. Like, it's kind of a long time tradition, and it's called crooking.
What?
Crooking.
Crooking. It crooked it.
Yeah, like you go to another secret society and you steal their shit or their mascot or something like that. And it's like they do it to each other. You know what I mean? It's a college thing.
Yeah, they're punking each other.
Yeah, pretty much. And so they keep trying to up the stakes. Yeah. Like if somebody got them one year, like next year, man, we got to get them really good and like steal this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they do that kind of crap. Now another skull that they are reported to have is that of Martin Van Buren. The 8th president of the United States.
Why Van Buren?
I'm not really sure. Maybe that was the only one they could get hold of.
Buchanan would be more interesting. He's like the only unofficial gay president we've ever had is Buchanan. They were calling him an old lady.
That is pretty funny.
With his other old lady man friend up there. But he was a good president, though. He balanced the budget, did a lot of good shit. People think that this shit has to happen before. No. We had gay presidents. It's just that you didn't know they were gay.
Well, you couldn't talk about it.
You couldn't talk about it back then. Buchanan is pretty much gay coded. Yeah.
So you had to read between the lines.
Single and stayed up late with his man friend and tried to work out all the problems of the nation. Which that's what you need. That's what you need.
Well, yeah.
Work out the problems of the nation, man. Fucking pay the fucking deficit. That's what he did. And they didn't make fun of him in the fucking Senate. That fucking old lady, they called him an old lady. Basically called him a queer.
Well, I'm like, yeah, but at least he's working. And
he got in there.
Shit.
He got in there by accident.
Not just being a fucking clown.
They put him on the bill just for fucking bullshit reasons and they didn't know who he was, and he won the election. They were like, okay, who is this dude? Oh shit. Okay. Well, yeah.
See, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah.
It was party conflict, to trying to win the fucking election.
That's
They just looked at the demographics and they said, yeah, we'll pick him. He's from the right state and everything, and that'll win, and he might win. But they didn't think he would win, but he did win.
Right.
But nobody even knew who he was. I don't even think he did any campaign speeches.
Speeching.
He did
that was
campaign
funny.
Speeching. That's some Southern shit there.
That was funny.
That's some Southern shit there. Archaic.
Well, I was gonna say there was a lot of shit that was gay coded back in the day, and I think back in the day everybody knew what that was, but I think we've lost the context now. But it's
they couldn't say it.
Like I said, you could kind of read between the lines because look, a lot of female artists, writers, stuff like that. Some of them would live with their female companion for many years and stuff like that, but no one was allowed to say that they were gay. You know what I mean? But everyone kind of knew.
They didn't want to take that plunge. They were we had to read between the lines.
Right.
They didn't want to cast any dispersions or cast any accusations. But they knew what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody was okay with it.
Well, shit, Oscar Wilde was the master of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He came out. He never really came out and said it, but you knew.
I'm telling you something right now.
Yeah, Oscar Wilde was
in this day and age.
And he went to jail for it.
He did, yeah.
In England, yeah.
Well, it was illegal. It was illegal until the 70s.
Yeah, couldn't be gay. You go to jail for that shit.
1969. I can't remember when they made it legal. But because I wrote about some cases where in the 60s and 70s where I think it was still illegal there. But Oscar Wilde, I got to tell you, his play, The Importance of Being Earnest, is one of the funniest fucking things that I have ever read. It's fucking hilarious.
Very intelligent, very funny guy. Good writer. Good
it's still funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just me, but I read it many years ago, and it's just I just remember laughing my fucking ass off.
Yeah, very good at wit, dry humor.
Very
and shit.
funny.
Very British humor. Yeah.
Like I said, maybe it's just my sense of humor. Some other people might read it and be like, "That's not funny." It's yeah, I thought it was.
It was very British humor.
I thought it was super funny. That was one of the funniest things I ever read.
That's funny.
But yeah, they made it into a movie a couple times. The movies aren't quite as funny as the play itself is. But
we had to fucking study fucking Being Earnest fucking in English lit class when I was in high school. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
And there was all kinds of innuendo in there.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I think that's what I thought was funny.
Yeah.
The clever ways he came of coming up with saying certain things.
Saying things you're not supposed to say.
That you're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so why do they allegedly have Martin Van Buren's skull? I don't think they do. But that's a pretty persistent rumor. Like you said, out of all the president's skulls that they could have, why not a cooler one? Yeah. Martin Van Buren, it's like, I feel like most people don't even know that he was a fucking president, you know what I mean? He's kind of one of the boring ones. They also supposedly have the skull of Pancho Villa, the Mexican revolutionary general. Now, supposedly, the story goes, that after Pancho Villa was assassinated in 1923, his tomb got raided and his skull got stolen. Now, either the skull was stolen by, like, treasure hunters, or it was stolen by bonesmen. Or, I guess, it could have been stolen by treasure hunters and then the bonesmen got it later on. You know what I mean? But again, there's really no evidence because nobody that's been in there has talked. So, and again, they haven't done DNA on any skulls. Because apparently they do have skulls in there, but I don't know if they're real skulls or they're replicas or they're just medical skulls. They just got them from medical skulls or something like that. So, like, they just could be some random person. And they're just saying that they're famous. I don't know why Martin Van Buren. I don't know why Pancho Villa, but those are the two that come up. And Geronimo is like the main one. But those are the ones that...
there is a chance there could be somebody. There's a chance. Think about it.
Yeah.
They are rich.
I mean, it's not impossible.
With connections. There's a chance they might have something.
It's not impossible.
Something like Pancho Villa's skull in there.
Yeah. Like, they might have got it. They might have even stolen it themselves. Like I said, they might have got hold of it, like, secondhand.
And sold it to them.
Something like that. Because there is a weird... Man, I read this book one time. This is the kind of shit that I'll see it, like, in the bookstore and be like, man, that looks interesting. There was a whole ass book about people stealing mostly skulls, but it was like other, just other skeletal remains too, but mostly skulls. And you would be shocked, maybe you wouldn't be, you would be shocked at how many people steal people's skulls.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Motherfucker,
particularly famous people, like, you gotta, like, lock that shit down.
Motherfucker, I'm from Mississippi. If you want to impress me, you better have Aaron Presley's fucking skull. Now I'd be like, shit, damn.
And you gotta prove it.
You gotta prove it. DNA and shit. Oh, shit.
You gotta have DNA.
You want to have the glasses on the skull? You want to have fucking the belt buckle? Hell yeah. I'd be like, okay. You got that.
Like in a glass case.
You got that. Yeah, you got that. There
and
it is.
It's got like a wig on it.
There
like
is
with a pompadour.
The fucking king. The king. Yeah. Even though I didn't like his music, I just liked him.
I like his music.
Yeah, some of it. It became too much like gospel.
Yeah, but I mean, I even liked that to a lesser degree.
He could sing though. He very much could sing.
Yeah. So, like, but yeah, there's supposedly... And then there's another skull that is not a famous person, but is just kind of like a random female Native American. And this was supposedly stolen during the 19th century, and they supposedly have that in there. But like I said, that's not a famous person. And they do have skulls, I guess, in there, and bones and stuff. But I don't know if they're real, and if they really belong to the people they're supposedly belong to. Another thing that they supposedly have in the tomb is Nazi paraphernalia. I don't know if it's because they're like, yay, Nazis, or because it's just kind of like historical artifacts and like the occult angle too. It might just be that. But according to a few sources, they do have some Nazi paraphernalia in there. One of the skulls, for some reason, one of the skulls in there, like according to a couple of different sources, says they have the Geronimo one that says Geronimo on it, and then one of them says Madame Pompadour. But nobody ever says they stole Madame Pompadour's skull. Like, is this just some random ass skull that they decided they were gonna call Madame Pompadour for some reason? I'm not really sure. I don't understand Yale. But yeah. So, okay, so much like some of the earlier theories about fucking them being a pipeline into the CIA. Similarly, a lot of people think that they're kind of like a pipeline into like global banking, like the World Bank and the Federal Reserve and stuff like that. Similar kind of rationale, I guess. Because it is true, again, that some members of Skull and Bones, such as William H. Donaldson, who was the founder of Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jeanette, like a big financial company, and Stephen A. Schwartzman, as I mentioned earlier, CEO of the Blackstone Group, are kind of big deals, like in global finance. So because of that, there are also stories that they're, this is where happened, like Global Bank, like I said, the World Bank kind of stuff. But again, it just seems like the thing about conspiracy theories in general is that you're just looking at a small subset of information and finding connections there. Like, for example, you're saying, okay, these presidents, these major finance figures, these people, like, in intelligence, were in Skull and Bones. Okay, fine, that's true. They were. But how many people involved that are very prominent in global finance, in CIA and intelligence, in all this other kind of stuff, how many people are not in that? Like, they never tell you that side of the equation. And I kind of feel like that's a huge part of information that they're leaving out because they want it to seem like Skull and Bones is a lot more powerful than it is. You know what I mean? Because when I looked at, like, the roster of people that they know were in Skull and Bones, it's like, yeah, they're powerful people, but not that many. Like, and not people that a lot of people that are, like, household names that a lot of people would, like, recognize, I guess. Which I guess that doesn't really equate to how influential you are, like, in those spheres. But I don't know. I kind of feel like it's more people that aren't in that. So when you're in a conspiracy theory, I kind of feel like you just pinpoint information that backs your shit up and just ignore all the other shit that doesn't back your shit up.
Yeah.
Like, so you can have a narrative.
You lose perspective.
Yeah, that exactly. You don't see the big picture.
Yeah.
Because you're focusing in on this one thing. It's like, well, this guy was in Skull and Bones, and this guy was like, yeah, but, like, look at all these people that were in CIA or whatever that weren't in it.
You had rich boys that went through it that ended up becoming very powerful. They were interconnected. Okay. Just like any other fraternal organization. Maybe they did favors for each other. Are they the fucking people that are in charge and controlling? No. They're just one of the factions.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. And it all depends on what you're in charge of. Like, the Mexican cartels are in charge of fucking human smuggling. Not Skull and Bones. Everybody kind of has their own thing going on.
Yeah.
Really, when you talk about weird shit, man, the Mexican mob, those are the dudes right now that do the fucking weird, bizarre, gothic ass shit, like carving somebody's face off while they're alive, as punishment. So,
And that's not a conspiracy.
That's not a conspiracy.
That's just people doing fucked up shit.
Yeah, right, yeah. And they have military and police members.
And they're not secretive about it either.
No, they want everybody. They want everybody to know that if you cross us, this is what we do to you. And they're not just petty criminals. A lot of the guys in the Mexican mob, they're professional soldiers and cops that have fucking become these things, and then they get real training. Mercenaries have trained them. They'll hire security companies come in and train their dudes. I've fucking seen videos of them do raids on other cartels using vehicle raids, weapons and everything. Grappling hooks to pull out the sides of buildings, and they go in there and fucking get into close quarter combat like something out of Special Forces. And I'm ex fucking U.S. Army fucking recon and shit, fucking Ranger indoctrination and everything. I know all the fucking skills and go like, yeah, those are the kind of dudes you want in your unit. And they're Mexican, different kind of Mexican mobs, Sinaloa cartel and stuff. They're no joke at all. They're I'm more afraid of dudes like that than say fucking who are the Arabic guys who were in Syria? It don't matter. I'm talking about fucking who were the Syrian Arabic guys? The Muslims, not Taliban, the other ones.
Who, ISIS?
ISIS, yeah, ISIS. They're more fierce than ISIS. Because they're Western. So they have Western ways, too. And they're Mexican. Mexicans, man, have a badass fucking culture, man. They're fucking redneck as a motherfucker. Very cowboy. macho. And then they have all that fucking Mesoamerican fucking culture behind them, going back to the Maya and the Aztec, blood sacrifices and fucking almost kind of satanic with all this Santa Muerte stuff, But they're not joking. They have whole cities of fucking tombs where all their fucking cartel leaders live. It looks like you're driving through a fucking high-end neighborhood, and it's not. These are all tombs of fucking cartel leaders. Bizarre, man. Bizarre. But they got their own ways. They got their own culture. All right, so...
Sorry, I just thought of that fucking Kolchak the Night Stalker episode with Eric Estrada.
Yeah.
Where he was going to be a willing sacrifice.
Willing sacrifice to go to Quetzalcoatl and shit like that.
It wasn't Quetzalcoatl. It was Quetzalcoatl was the good guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
He showed the feathered serpent though, from whatever.
Yeah, but he was a good guy. It was I don't remember who the bad guy was. I'd have to look it up again. But yeah, he was gonna have the other 4 victims were not willing participants. They were like, hey, can we have your heart? Thanks. But he was given a whole year of anything he wanted, all the money he wanted, all the women he wanted, blah blah blah, living high on the hog for a year, and then he agreed to do that so they could take his heart out at the end, which doesn't really seem like a good deal to me. Sorry.
If you've been on the show for a long time, you fucking know that we grew up in Brazil, Central and South America, and I fucking love Central and South American cultures, and I had a great time there, and I got a lot of respect for them, for the Mexican culture. They're fucking tough, very tough. And it's kind of been mixed in with the European stuff from Spain, Spanish Empire stuff, like fucking Zorro with the new Zorro series that came out was fucking good. Which, man, the second season is supposed to be coming out. You would think
that
it
was a
renewed.
Good show.
Yeah, it was a good show. You want to see more of that?
We just stumbled across it just accidentally.
Yeah, Zorro in New York in the 1800s and shit. That's supposed to be the second season. But Mexico is the other America. It's kind of like a twin. The South part of the United States is closer to Mexico than we are the North in terms of mentality. So fucking, we got them here in Florida. Guys working on farms. They'd be up to fucking biker bars and shit, and they're tough little farm working dudes. They're here legally. They're legal workers on these farms, fucking dealing with horses and fruit and vegetables and shit, and good. They behave well. They're just like anybody else. Fucking. And I like Mexicans. I'm in the Army. I served with a lot of Mexican American guys from California. And Chifino, he like my fucking brother. He was Chicano. And they're good Americans. They've been around for a long, long time.
Well, like I said, we live in a rural farming area, so there's a lot of Mexican influence.
A lot of crossover. The South and Mexico, they're both kind of macho societies, so a lot of crossover.
Straw Dog says, gotta admit, skulls look cool. About 80% of my shirts have skulls on them. I didn't even realize, but I wore my little pirate shirt today without even realizing. I just grabbed it, and I was just like, only just now, I was like, oh, we're doing a show about Skull and Bones, and I wore my Skull and Bones.
You were walking around, that shit was pulled up. You were getting some midriff going on, too. I saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can walk
This
down
is
the
a
stairs,
short.
Yeah.
This is a short shirt.
It's cute, yeah.
So I have to kind of wear it with high-waisted pants. Otherwise, I get all kind of skint. But yeah, so another thing is that, and I guess this was kind of came to the fore in 2004, because of the Bush Kerry thing, because they were both Bones men, that the Skull and Bones were behind a lot of election manipulation and all that other kind of stuff, which, like I said, again, I don't really think that really has any merit to it. But at the time, because they were both Bonesmen, some kind of, I think it was kind of more people on the fringe, but they were kind of saying it's it's kind of like a false choice. They're both from the same secret society, and they both want the same things, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of I guess, but it's just kind of they're both just from the same social class and the same, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's as... Yeah, but it doesn't really have the weight that people think it does. You know what I mean? I don't think it's as secretive or as weird or as... It's nefarious, but I don't think it's nefarious in the way that a lot of people think it is. That's all. So, I don't know. I don't really know if there's anything to do with that. Because they did ask both of them about it at the time of the election. And they both essentially said the same thing. It's just like, it's a secret society. We can't really talk about it. And that's basically all they said. Which, of course, fueled speculation even further. It's just kind of like, ooh, what does that mean? Like, all kind of crazy shit must have gone on. Like I said, they must be sacrificing babies and stuff, which I'm sure they're not. Now, one thing, and I don't even know if I call this a conspiracy theory, but one thing I do think is endemic in these, not just Skull and Bones, but any kind of society like this, is kind of like preserving essentially like an American aristocracy. But as I said, that's kind of what rich people gonna rich. That's what they're gonna do, right? They're just like trying to consolidate to preserve their power, their wealth,
and expand their power
and wealth. Yeah. That's just naturally what they're gonna do. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, like
that's what your job is when you're rich.
Yeah, like I said, it seems like a conspiracy theory to us because we're the ones that are getting the fallout from it, like the peons. But to them, I don't think they really think about it in that sense.
Well, sometimes you can ride on their coattails and make money, though, too.
Sure.
That's where the jobs come from. It just depends on what it is they're doing. Are they fucking exporting your jobs and your wealth away, or are they trying to bring you a job? That's the acid test. Are you going to make money when they get rich? And that a lot of times.
Or are they just going to take their money and fuck off somewhere else?
Exactly.
We're just gonna stick it in some like offshore account.
Yeah, and it's not gonna cycle.
And it's not gonna
circulate through you.
Not all business owners and all CEOs and shit like that are bad. Honestly, some of them do actually put the money back into the business.
Yeah.
Which, helps the whole entire economy.
And they buy things.
And But if you're just gonna like make all this money and then be like, bye, I'm gonna fuck off to like some tax shelter someplace, then obviously that's not helping anyone. You're not helping society.
You're not buying anything.
You're just being a leech because honestly, the money that you made was off the backs of working people. That's how you made that money a lot of the times. Now, sometimes the money comes from their families and stuff like that, but you could argue that the money that came to their family also came off the backs of working people just a couple generations ago.
Making money's no problem. That's not taking. It just has to circulate.
Yeah, you have to put it back.
You have to circulate it through there, just like circulation
into the
of blood.
economy.
Yeah. If you're making a bunch of money, then you need to buy or hire. And they don't do that.
Or expand your company so you can hire more people or buy more things.
Buy more things from other people that are making things. That's what it is.
That's kind of how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I kind of feel like a lot of super rich people are just kind of like, nah, I'm just going to make this money and then I'm going to fuck off.
Yeah.
They'll go live someplace else. Like I said, they'll go live in a tax shelter. They'll put their money in a tax shelter somewhere.
Yeah, and they'll go live in another country.
And it doesn't help anybody.
They suck all the money out of this economy and pour
That's why trickle-down economics is bullshit.
Didn't quite work.
It doesn't work at all. It doesn't work. That was just some fucking lie they sold you.
And the only thing to get what me and Jen are talking about is to have an enclosed economy where you keep the fucking circulation within the borders of your country. And boy, they won't have that now. They want a fucking global economy, which means taking money from you and them running with it. That's really what it means.
Well, yeah.
That's really. But no, when I lived in Brazil, it was an enclosed economy in the 80s because they knew that. You know what I mean? They were trying to keep Brazilian people making money. Had it been part of the global economy, every fucking bit of fucking the money had been sucked out of Brazil. It had been wealth extraction.
Yeah, I remember one time, reading a book a long time ago by an economist. And he said, wealth does not trickle down. Wealth is sucked up.
Yeah.
And that is entirely true.
Well, it depends on what they do with it once they have it.
Yeah.
If they buy more stuff, then it circulates.
Like I said, and not everyone is a piece of shit. Like some of them, some business owners actually do invest back into their business, which helps the community at large, right? Because you're hiring more people, you're, buying more product that, comes from other companies that are making it and stuff like that. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be, the more money you make, the more you're supposed to spend. You're not supposed to hold on to it. You have to help its circulation through the body.
Yeah.
Like blood.
Yeah. If it doesn't do that, then
you're like choking off the blood supply.
Yes, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So as secretive as Skull and Bones has been, there have been a few alleged witness accounts that have come out about the rituals over the years. Whether these are true or not, but I will submit that the details of them are similar enough that I'm willing to bet that this is probably about what happens. And like I said, they're kind of interesting, but not, like I said, no one's sacrificing babies or virgins or anything like that. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just kind of basically what you would think. So the earliest one of these was by Ron Rosenbaum. This was from 1968. And he was a journalist, and he had gone to Yale. And he did, like, kind of a first-hand investigation into the Skull and Bones rituals. And what he did, I don't think he was in Skull and Bones, but he kind of, like, spied on them, I guess. And, you know, got sort of scuttlebutt from, like, other people that were in it, like, on the down low. They basically set up camp on the roof of a building overlooking the courtyard of the tomb, and then said that they had witnessed some stuff and recorded audio and stuff like that from some of their initiation ceremonies. Now, one of the things that he said was that there was a lot of howling and screaming, like loud groans, screaming, chanting, that kind of stuff. But he said you could kind of tell that it was like theater. Like, it didn't sound like someone was actually being killed or in pain or anything like that. It sounded like theatrical, like it was fake. He also said that he firsthand, I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that he witnessed firsthand some kind of dramatized scenes that were like mock murders or mock executions, not real ones, but, you know, fake ones. Symbolic death and rebirth, that was a big thing. And people, like, dressing up as historical or mythical figures. The Pope, Don Quixote, that kind of stuff. He said there was a lot of skeleton and bone type imagery.
What did he say the budget was? Or did this look cheap, or did it look really good?
They didn't really say.
Because I can imagine motherfuckers...
As far as I know, the endowment for Skull and Bones, I think, is about $3.5 million a year, something like that. Like I said, it's a privately owned... It's a business.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's not Yale associated. Like, they don't fund it directly. I believe it's privately owned, or they have, like, a business that runs it. And I think their yearly thing is about $3 million, $3.5 million.
So they must be... You got to pay dues. Is probably what it is.
I'm not real sure. Maybe you do. You probably do have to. Yeah.
That's where the money's
They're getting the money from somewhere.
Yeah, and contributions.
And I imagine, like, ex-alumni are probably giving to it and stuff like that. Because it's not... When I heard... They do have, like, a business that pays taxes and everything like that runs it. And their yearly thing, which they do report, is, I think, like $3 million, $3.5 million, which was not as much as I thought it was going to be, honestly.
No, for a fraternity, which is basically what it is, that's a lot of money.
But it is a lot of money for the kind of thing that it is.
Yeah, you know, they own.
And that's also for and that's also for building maintenance, and that's for everything.
Building maintenance and power.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, little costumes and fucking little throwing parties. No, $3 million's a lot for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you got the people running that shit, the members running it they're in college. They're probably stealing some of it too. Wouldn't you?
Well, probably.
You know, I need a new stereo. So we're going to fucking order a new stereo for the fucking lodge, and I'm going to take it home. It's good shit like that. You know what I mean?
I'm sure it's probably that kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Getting a grift off the top.
Getting a grifted, yeah.
I've never done that.
But I guarantee you, the money that's being paid to them is direct deposit from some old dude who's fucking in his 70s or 80s, and he's a fucking billionaire.
Yeah.
And it's fucking $5,000 a month, and he doesn't even notice that. Because that's like nothing compared to what that is.
Isn't that crazy?
So there's probably a lot of that.
That amount of money.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of that shit.
Man, I wish I could be in that in that bracket.
Yeah, I wish I could just fucking shell out $5,000 a month
and not even think about it, and not even notice it.
Like $5.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
My whole entire life, I've never been able to imagine that. So it's like, yeah, that's fucking weird. But yeah, so yeah, he said that. Like I said, there's a lot of, obviously, because it's skull and bones. So they have like a lot of skull and bone imagery. Although he wasn't sure if the skulls were real or if they were just replicas or where they got them from. And he said that sometimes, like, they would put this stuff like out in the courtyard. So sometimes they do stuff outside, at least according to him, that he could watch. He also said, like I said, that there was like a mock execution, which seemed like it represented, the initiate being symbolically killed and reborn into their new role as a member of Skull and Bones. So they had that going on. Now, this article was first published in Esquire in 1977 and was later kind of expanded into other things. I don't remember if he wrote a book or anything like that, but he did like write other things about it. And this was kind of like the first, I feel like there was the first major, mainstream media type of thing that like talked about Skull and Bones and like what went on there. So obviously this is like a big deal, and like a lot of the stuff like came from that, you know what I mean? Now no one's entirely sure if he had exaggerated some of the claims or just made some stuff up or something like that. I mean, obviously there's no way of knowing, but it is kind of one of the foundational sort of things about what goes on there. Now, Anthony C. Sutton, who was a British-American economist and an author, he wrote pretty extensively about Skull and Bones. He wrote a book called America's Secret Establishment. Now, he had never been in Skull and Bones, but he was really kind of interested in it, and he compiled a bunch of like leaked documents and kind of anecdotal, like anonymous accounts from people that had been in it and stuff like that, allegedly. And he said in his book that one of the big things, and I think I've mentioned this before, was that all the initiates, they take a very, very solemn oath, which they apparently all take very, very seriously, to never, ever, ever say anything about anything that they do there. And there's a bunch of like very heavily symbolic language in it, implying like death and dismemberment. Like I said, I don't think they'd have you killed like the mafia or anything like that if you revealed anything, but they would probably just like shun you and you'd be cut off from all your networking and connections.
They got that from the Masonic lodges, early Masonic lodges.
Yeah, I think that's what that was. Like I said, I don't think they would kill you for revealing the shit.
Probably not for real, no.
But they would probably just be like, "Yeah, you're not our friend anymore. Bye. You can't sit with us."
Yeah, you shut the fuck up if you ask.
And they won't help you anymore.
You don't say nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
He also said that there was a big thing where a lot of people would be given like code names during the initiation process, like a lot of them coming from myth or literature. Thor, Baal, Magog. Boaz. There was like a couple ones like that. Like they would always be given names like that. I think Magog, they would give that to the person that had the most sexual experience.
Okay.
And then Gog was the one that had the least. At least according to... Because it was a time suck episode on this, which was like almost 3 hours long. So I listened to that, and he did a really, really deep dive. He went into the whole history of Yale and the whole fucking history of secret societies and the whole... It was like super long. But he had like a lot of... And it was funny. So it was like he had a lot of like good information about it. But that's what he said. He also talked a little bit about this. So there's a symbolic death aspect where you have to lay in a coffin, and then all the other members like are kind of standing around you like chanting and doing mock eulogies, like and that's not that weird because they're kind of talking about your old self is dying and now you're being reborn as a member of this shit. But the thing about it, at least according to the Time Suck episode I listened to, was that sometimes, like, you lay in the coffin and you were supposed to, like, confess, like, everything. Like, your whole entire life story. Including all of your sexual exploits, all of the embarrassing shit that had happened to you. And he said, and sometimes, reportedly, some people kind of got a little excited while they were talking about all their sexual stuff and started jerking off in there. So...
Wait a minute, what?
And started jerking off in the coffin, like while they were talking about all of their past sexual, because that's what you were supposed to reveal everything.
Okay. All right.
While you were laying in the coffin.
That's some weird shit. That sounds like that's kind of made up. But maybe some dude could get.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe.
What year are we talking about? When was this shit?
Well, like I said, this might have been because it's been going on like forever. Okay. This fucking secret society was started in 1832.
And were they doing it metaphysically? Symbolically?
Are you metaphysically jerking?
Metaphysically jerking off? You're not actually jerking off. It's just like an imaginary.
How can you metaphysically jerk off?
I don't fucking know, man. These are LARPers.
Tell me, Tom.
These are rich boy LARPers. They can come up with all kinds of shit. All right, he's in there high as fuck in his fucking toga inside the coffin, and they're talking about their sexual shit. He's in there fucking banging his hand up against, but he's not actually getting into it. He's just playing along. You don't know.
Well, it could be
He's a
that,
rich
like I
boy,
said, some people got, and I don't know if substances are involved.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody has a few drinks. Maybe everybody like snorts some coke. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's some substances involved. So it's like, you know, you get in the coffin, everybody's standing around. They're like, okay, take us through your entire sexual history, and you're just kind of laying there, and you're kind of high, and you're like trying to talk, and maybe, reportedly, allegedly.
It's probably nothing like that. That's probably fucking...
Allegedly.
That's probably misinformation. It's probably some austere shit that they go through, probably.
Although,
Austere
from several...
shit.
Okay, I will say, though, that several accounts...
You know, it's just hazing.
Well, I think that's what it is.
Probably hazing.
But the thing about it is that a lot of hazing, fraternities and stuff, will do sexual shit like this. And so I don't think that this is that beyond the pale, because so the thing about it, like I said, it's kind of like Scientology, where they want you to reveal all of your deepest secrets. Yeah. So one, it's a bonding exercise, but two, also so they have blackmail shit on you.
They got dirt on you.
So it's like, so that's, which I guess is kind of
the wildest thing I ever heard about fucking Skull and Bones is that fucking, as part of the initiation, and once you get into a certain level, you're gonna have to fuck a goat. That was one of the things that
I never heard that.
You had to fuck a goat. Maybe it wasn't Skull and Bones, but it was, somebody said some shit like that. You have to fuck some kind of goat.
I will say that I don't know if it was Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
But fraternity hazing, secret society hazings, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, you had to fuck
if somebody said that you had to do that. Although, like, man, don't involve a goat in your nonsense.
I think it was Skull and Bones.
Maybe.
Where they said that, but it may not have been. It might have been another one. But that might have been another fraternity.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if I heard that.
I don't want to put that on them because that was just to memory. But I remember things like that.
Like you said,
association with secret societies and fraternities.
Well, yeah, because okay. So here's the thing: the whole thing about secret societies is they're supposed to be secret, right? And it's supposed to be kind of like there's this small cabal of members, and they're supposed to be tightly bonded and everything. Yeah. So, as you said, like you were saying about Epstein Island and all of that, where it's like if you do something that you don't want anybody to know about, perhaps fucking an animal, and everybody knows about it, then that'll keep you quiet. So I could...
And they all did it.
And they all did it too.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I could see that kind of stuff happening. I don't... Like, none of the major...
I vaguely...
none of the other major witness statements about it, like, mentioned that.
Yeah. I vaguely remember hearing something like that, and I remember not believing it at the time that I heard it. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds like
I don't... Yeah, like, I wouldn't say... Like, I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm just saying if somebody like definitively came out and had proof of it, like, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
But they're probably not doing that.
Some kind of embarrassing hazing.
Which a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Not to the extent of fucking animals.
Yeah.
But, which, like I said, you know...
That's like some shit that some dudes would come up with, though. That's like some shit, like some taboo dudes that you can't talk about. Okay, well, you have to fuck the goat.
We all had to fuck the goat.
We all had to fuck the goat. They're like, what? I had to fuck the goat? Yeah. If
13 o'clock, we all had to fuck the goat.
Yeah, and then afterwards they go, psych, we didn't fuck the goat. We made you.
Yeah, that's totally the
shit like that.
We didn't really fuck the goat. We just thought it'd be funny to watch you fuck the goat.
Fuck the goat. Yeah. That's like some shit dudes would come up with.
Wow, dudes are assholes.
To get you to join. You want to join that?
This is why I don't join this kind of shit.
Yeah. I was in the army, man.
I'm not a joiner.
I was in the army. I know the fucking
I'm not
games,
a joiner.
The games, warrior
for
cults.
exactly this reason.
Yeah, I know all the games. Somebody was saying earlier on that Skull and Bones is a cult. Of course, it's a fucking cult.
I mean, everything like this has cult-like aspects. Sure.
The entire U.S. Army is a cult. Not one cult. It's many cults. The Army Rangers is a warrior cult. It's like something out of Fight Club. When I was in the 90s, they were fucking badasses. Special Forces, they were like the real smart badasses. SFOD, or Delta Force, they were kind of like the SWAT team of the world. Badasses. But they had a certain way about them. They were kind of nerdy, gun nerdy kind of guys, kind of professional. I had two uncles by marriage. In Task Force 160, they were the fucking special operations aviation or helicopter pilots for Delta Force.
They're still running around. They're fucking working the UAE. They're jacked. They're like about 60 by now. Fucking, they're on test and roids. And they're helicopter pilots and bodyguards for fucking royalty in UAE. And they also worked for guys in Saudi. They all come out of units like that. They're cults. They're warrior cults. Not a bad thing. It's just because you got to eliminate people. They're an elite. So there's shit you have to go through. There's skills you have to have. There's a certain cultural mentality that you have to have. And you have to have fucking real hardcore endurance. Put up with a lot of bullshit. Because endurance actually wins wars, not fucking brute force, really. Even though they're strong. That's what these dudes are doing. They're just doing it in a rich college boy kind of way. That's what they're doing, though.
Yeah, and like...
It's like hazing. Hazing,
and they're using the skulls and the coffins and all that kind of stuff as like a taboo.
Right.
Like, to be kind of creepy and scary and edgy and occult and everything like that. So it's just like, it'll seem... Like, to me, that doesn't... Look, I've been goth my whole life, so it's like skulls and shit like that doesn't faze me. So if somebody asked me to lay at a coffin, I'm like... And talk about my sexual history, I'm like, okay. Like, that... It's not weird to me or anything. So I kind of feel like, this kind of shit... The reason that works, and the reason that I don't join this kind of shit, is because these people, these types of people, are ashamed of stuff. They've done stuff they're not proud of. They're, you know, a lot of them maybe grew up in kind of sheltered kind of ways, or maybe feel bad about certain things or something like that, particularly like in a sexual fashion. And so they're confessing all these things that they did, and everybody's listening to it, and they're using that maybe as blackmail for them, like later on or whatever, or they're using it as bonding. But the thing about it is that I don't really work like that, because like I don't really have any shame. So it's just like I'm not religious.
Not that kind of shame.
Not really. Like I'm not religious. I'm not bothered by that kind of stuff. So like if somebody released some video of me, like there's video of me out there.
Yeah. Me and her together.
Of me and her. Me and her. Me and him.
Yeah.
I'm not that drunk.
We were doing it.
There's video of just me doing various things. And it's like if somebody said, hey, there's a video, I'm like, yeah, so?
Yeah, we mentioned that shit. Some of that shit sold last time we mentioned
it. Like you can't blackmail me with it because I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's just on mini vids.
Yeah, like I sell it. Yeah, so it's just kind of like
13 cam. Go on 13 cam. Spell it out. THIRTAE.
I had to, because if you put 1-3 as a, they think it's like underage shit.
Go,
it's like they won't.
Go to 13 cam and right there.
That didn't even occur to me.
You'll see us on there fucking around.
Okay.
You can get free samples, but no, buy the shit. We don't care.
I mean, we haven't done anything for a long time.
Yeah, we did private contracts too. A few of the private contracts.
But that's the thing. I kind of feel like this whole system.
For us, it's an art form.
This whole system, and Scientology is within that too. Like any kind of cult thing, where they're telling you, it's like, oh, you have to like confess all this embarrassing sexual stuff. It's like if you ever cross us, we can release all that stuff. I'm like, okay,
yeah. So what?
I don't care.
Now I'll throw my 2 cents in. If you've ever seen Fight Club, somebody, I was fucking talking about certain shit in the Army. This was years back here on the show. And a Mexican American guy fucking said, dude, he sent me the DVD. He says, you're gonna love this DVD. It was Fight Club. I had never seen it. He asked me if I'd seen it. I don't remember his name. He hasn't been in the comment section forever, years. And I saw Fight Club and I go, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what a warrior cult is. That's what the US Army Rangers were like. Just airborne infantry to a certain extent, special forces. It's a warrior cult. And that cult is not based on shame of sexual shit. The cult is based upon the shame of weakness, that you cannot show any weakness, so you can absorb any kind of fucking beating, be it beating by weather, beating by fists, bullets, fucking time, anything that wears you down. You can't be affected by it, or you will lose face. And really, man, you could fucking get dudes to fucking do incredible shit. Just watch Fight Club, and that's really the essence of what a warrior cult does. I loved it. Even though the main character's crazy. But he's not that crazy. That's the way a lot of professional special operations, terrorist groups, they're like that. Yeah.
Dan says, very few college men join frats these days because no one wants to go through stupid hazing shit. And I can't entirely blame them, honestly, because...
the mentality's changed.
I've never been a big fan of, like, frat bro culture. It's very tiresome. So I can see why. I'm glad that shit is dying out. You know, that's just, it was stupid to start with.
Yeah.
Side quest here, but she makes a good point, actually. She says, I don't think it's shame. I think it's the knowledge that other people will judge them.
Yeah.
And it will affect their future career. Yeah, and that's kind of...
like losing face.
That's kind of what I meant. It's like, I don't even know if they're ashamed, but it's like they're worried that other people are going to judge them for that because... So it's not so much a them problem, it's a societal problem, which I guess is not as stringent nowadays, like I said. But even in that case... You know, obviously I'm a nobody, so it's just kind of like I don't have some big, you know, $1 million career to lose or anything like that, so I can afford to not care. But I don't know. I kind of feel like even nowadays, and like I said, is if somebody like super famous or something like that, there was some big scandal, because we've talked about this before, like, you know, some famous actors and stuff like that, and like they had some big sexual scandal. I said, look, is everybody involved consenting? Are they all over 18? Don't care. I don't care.
Straw Dog said that Delta Force was fucking professional badasses. Yeah, they were more than that, though. They were federal agents. They were being sourced out of the Army, out of Army Special Forces. You never knew what they were going to be doing. They could pull 3 of them out of the unit, especially SFOD, put them in civilian clothes and make them bodyguards for a foreign politician in another country. And then those dudes could go into action and kill somebody, defending, or even fucking just killing somebody who was a threat to that foreign agent. And they'd have no legal repercussions because they were kind of like agents of the United States government, even though they weren't wearing military uniforms at the time. So yeah, Delta did weird shit. That was I don't know if they're still doing that, but they were doing that kind of stuff when I was in the 90s. They were more the vibe, because I knew some of them. The vibe with them felt like you were talking more to a cop than you were a soldier. They were more like agents, like a federal agent. Go to the restroom.
Yeah, Sideways also said, I think the shame is just performative after the fact when people find out. Yeah, I think it's that, but like Straw Dogs pointed out, in the case of people in the intelligence community, if you lose your security clearance, you're basically unemployable. Yeah, so like in that sense, like you said, it's not so much a you problem, like, you know, because there's video of me out there and it's like I don't really care about it, but obviously I don't have security clearance and I don't really have that to lose. So... But it's not so much a you problem, it's a societal problem, because other people are going to say, well, other people could blackmail you because of this, and so that makes you a risk and blah-de-blah. So I get that. Sidequest says some famous person with some sexual scandal, like Diddy, for example. Yeah, but, like I said, I don't care about sexual scandals as long as, 1, everyone is over 18, and 2, everyone is consenting. As soon as you get into underage and non-consenting, then obviously that is not cool. But anything over that, and I will give some leeway for like maybe if the dude is like way older and she's like in her 20s and there's some grooming involved, obviously that's a different situation. But as long as everybody is an adult and is doing stuff that they have not been coerced into, I don't give a fuck how weird it is. It does not bother me, it does not faze me, and I don't think that it should be used against them, like I said. But if people are underage or people are unconsenting, then that is obviously a different issue. Different issue.
All right, Papa, we'll see you around. He's got to go.
Oh, see you later. Thank you very much for all of your contributions this evening and for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was another book that came out in 2002 by Alexandra Robbins. It was called Secrets of the Tomb. Now, she actually did go to Yale, and she was a journalist, and she actually interviewed a bunch of bonesmen, but anonymously. Like, none of them would give their names. Like, that was the condition. And so this was kind of seen as, like, maybe like a definitive kind of book, because she did actually talk to people that had been there, but they talked on the condition of anonymity, you know what I mean? And they said pretty much the same stuff. They said that the rituals involved like psychological theater, simulated confessions or real confessions, role-playing, immersive kind of ceremonies that were meant to like test your loyalty, your vulnerability, your obedience, that kind of stuff. They would all dress up as like various historical figures, like I said earlier, Pope, you know, also Napoleon, I think was another one that came up. The devil, I think it was like in a devil costume, that kind of shit. So it's like, but they didn't take it entirely seriously. It was done like satirically, kind of, like I said, so kind of like cosplay.
You probably couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They did say that there were several skulls in the place. Whether they were real or not, nobody entirely knows. There was Nazi paraphernalia in there, which allegedly they said had been collected as trophies. Like, we don't really agree with this stuff. We just have this because of that.
Yeah, you're stealing the mojo.
You're stealing. Yeah, that's entirely what they were doing. And there was stuff in there that was like tied to kind of like Masonic or like Hermetic occult kind of traditions. There was that kind of stuff. And she did get a couple of quotes from anonymous people who had actually been in the Skull and Bones. And one of them said, it's part frat party, part cult theater, part boot camp.
Yeah.
But no one who's been through it takes it lightly.
Yeah. Because they want in.
Yeah. Another one said, you die to the world and are reborn into the order. Yeah. So it's kind of like what we thought it was.
Yeah, it's what I thought it was. I've been through it.
She kind of said it's like they're not so much like satanic or anything like that. It's just kind of like a bonding experience with kind of occult, like fake occult trappings, like to make it seem more epic or more like give it more gravitas.
Side Quest will tell you, it's the same with the military. There's ceremonial trappings.
Yeah.
During promotions, award-giving ceremonies when you get medals and shit. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Yeah, and so, like I said, I don't really feel like it's any different than any other kind of group like this.
Yeah.
It's just... It's basically like it's an in-group versus out-group thing. It's like you're going to be like, you're in this elite group, you got asked to be in it, and they have to make it feel like special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're going to have like all of these accoutrements about it.
Yeah.
And because it's Skull and Bones, they're going to have like this kind of like old school European secret society, occult, creepy kind of shit going on, because that makes it feel like it's like epic and like more important. But it's just cosplay. I mean, in the end, yes, these people end up being very powerful, but they would have anyway without this.
Yeah. This is just binding them together in their network.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. So I don't think it's so much this.
They've joined an institution. The same way redneck badasses and fucking Mexican-American badasses and black Southern badasses joined the U.S. Army to be binded together, and they're now in an institution. You know what I mean? And then after they come out, they're still a team. That's what this is.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's really no different. Like I said, I don't. And these people would have been powerful whether they were in Skull and Bones or not. You know, because it's really only one of many secret
and a lot of these
societies.
dudes probably went through this and were forgotten. It's just
that's what I'm saying. It's like we only remember
the real powerful,
the ones that like most of the dudes that were in it. It's like they never did anything.
Yeah, some of these dudes went through there and they're like, that shit.
Oh yeah, that guy. He just like overdosed or something. Like I don't know what happened to all the dudes, because like I said, every year 15, and they've been around since 1832.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of dudes.
Yeah, not all of them are going to be winners.
Yeah, I mean they probably guess wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, every now and then they get lucky.
They all made money.
Sure.
Because they were coming out of Yale, but whether or not they became powerful and influential in the big picture.
Yeah, probably.
Probably
most of them did not.
Most of them did, yeah.
Like we don't remember their names.
You gotta fucking bring it down to reality.
Yeah.
All right, and the reality is that they're a higher class, they're a higher socioeconomic class, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're important. You know, they got dudes that fucking have from the higher socioeconomic class have a lot of money, but they don't have any game. They made a lot of money, but their lives weren't that interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that are like that.
Well, most people's lives aren't that interesting or that influential. I mean, there's really only a handful of people in every generation.
They're just people like
most people are just people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's billions of people on Earth.
Yeah.
So, you know, to stand out amid all of that, I mean, that's a very, very small percentage.
Yeah.
And so even these motherfuckers, I mean, if Skull and Bones was really running the world, you would think that every important motherfucker ever would have come through there.
Yeah.
But not really. Like I said, I feel like most of the people that went through there, like, we don't know what their names are, or they didn't, you know, maybe they had good jobs and money and shit like that, but, like, nobody really remembers who they are.
They didn't really change the world, they didn't leave a mark.
Right.
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
And that's okay. That's just kind of how shit works.
Yeah, you live your life. And fucking, you had a good time. It doesn't really matter what the world thought of you.
No. I mean, no one will remember you in 200 years anyways.
Most motherfuckers, I've watched it happen. They die, and a week later, they don't even exist anymore. All their shit's in the hands of other people. They're kind of forgotten. They're like, yeah, he was a cool dude, but he's gone. And then everybody moves on.
I mean, that's just how, that's just
the way
the
of the Force.
nature.
That is the way of the Force.
It sucks, but that's just the nature of humans. We don't live that long.
No.
You know?
No, and none of us individually are that important, really.
No. I mean, other than a handful of people that actually were important. But even the handful of people that were important, whose names we remember, it wasn't just them. It was usually just like a whole like thing, and they just happened to be like the figurehead of whatever the fuck it was that happened.
Yeah, like Mustache Man, Adolf Hitler. You'll remember him forever. He wasn't really all that much of an individual, really. It was that movement.
It was a whole thing of shit
right,
behind him, like a whole bunch of other factors
You can't
that allowed that to happen.
Right.
Like it wasn't just that guy.
Yeah, and if you look at just that guy, it wasn't much to him.
Yeah, that's
everything
what I'm
else
saying.
that went along with it. And
that's why very, very, very important.
And he wasn't even that evil. He wasn't evil. He was just mundane. He was regular.
Just kind of a shithead.
Just that the movement that he was in was fucking genocidal. They didn't like Jews. That's why.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, and that's why you remember them. If that didn't happen, you would have remembered them dudes.
Well, no, but like I said,
yeah,
that's what I mean. That's why I kind of feel like it's better.
Yeah.
In some ways, I know why they teach history. I don't know if they do this anymore, but like when I was in school, they taught history as just kind of like one great motherfucker after another. But the thing about it is, I think it's more, I think it's better to study history as more a study of like larger trends, and not focus so much on individuals, because it's not usually
like
an individual that like sometimes it's an individual that's kind of like the spearhead of a movement or something like that, but there's a movement, there's other people behind that, there's
more of the movement,
there's cultural factors behind that allowed that person to do what they did at that time.
For instance, Temujin, also known as fucking Genghis Khan, all right, man, they killed more people than the fucking Nazis ever did. Them motherfuckers were brutal. Cannibals too. Fucking, they would eat fucking captive women. They did all kinds, but it's all fucking kind of forgotten because it was a long time ago. And two, that dude would have been forgotten if it wasn't for that huge army that he had behind him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much him; it was the whole movement. And I think they had hundreds of thousands of dudes.
In a lot of ways, that might be, and I'm not sure. Like, if you're from another country, please tell me. But I kind of feel like because the U.S. is so predicated upon individualism. I kind of feel like it's very, and I remember reading a lot, doing this like in my history classes, like when I was growing up and stuff like that. They were very, very focused on individuals that did this and did that and did the other thing. But it's like they didn't really focus too much on the big picture, the cultural factors.
I never thought of that.
That led to that, and it's like, and I kind of feel like that's a lot more.
I never thought of that.
They should probably teach history more like that.
Yeah, because we're looking at history through a Western lens of individualism.
Yeah, that's always kind of bothered me.
And you're putting it on an individual.
And that's never.
Nah. They really didn't have power as an individual.
No.
They only had power because they were an individual that was guiding a huge fucking group.
Yeah, if you didn't have a bunch of other people that were kind of like, yeah, man, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying the individual doesn't matter, because it's like sometimes that person was like the charismatic and they got the message out and all this other stuff. But it's just kind of like there were other people that were feeling that too, then that coalesced around that person.
Here's an example. I had a Jewish friend of mine say, wouldn't you kill Adolf Hitler if you knew? And I said, no. He goes, yeah, but that would have stopped all that shit. I said, no, it wouldn't have.
It probably wouldn't have.
If you killed Adolf Hitler, then just Ernst Röhm would have been
someone
leader
else
of the Nazis.
would have done it.
He was pretty fucking bad too.
Because it wasn't just him.
It wasn't just him. It was
That's what
all
we're
of them.
saying.
It was millions of them.
That's what we're saying.
They just would have had another leader, and he probably would have been worse. Because really, fucking Mustache Man was a pussy. He wasn't a fucking big bad motherfucker that beat people up and cruel or anything like that. He was a artist and kind of a wussy. He was a World War I veteran and a messenger. He was into art and stuff, you know. It just happened to be that he was in charge of a fucking group, a political group that had no problem with getting rid of their political and racial enemies. All right, so that group would have done it no matter who was in charge. And he didn't come up with that idea. That group came up with that idea. And he okayed it.
It helped that he was charismatic and that people.
But Ernst Röhm was charismatic too.
Sure, it might have turned out exactly the same.
It would have been the same.
It might have been worse.
It might have been worse.
It might have been better, but you don't know. There's no way of knowing.
Ernst Röhm was a beefsteak Nazi, brown on the outside, red on the inside. He was a communist, so he would have just hooked up with Stalin. They'd have done the same thing. They'd have done the exact same thing because Stalin was killing Jews too.
But yeah,
it's just that Rome would have done it not only based upon your race but also your class. That's why it would have been worse. So it wouldn't have been just the Jews; it had been everybody else too.
And what a lot of people forget is that the Nazis didn't just fuck up the Jews; they also fucked up the gypsies, and
gays,
gay people,
anything else. Yeah, they were anti-gay.
Intellectuals.
Even though Ernst Röhm was gay, and Ernst Röhm was openly gay.
Yeah.
But the Ernst Röhm and the fucking SA got killed off in the Night of the Long Knives because Hitler knew that the German mainstream wouldn't accept them because they were gay. They were like a gay military man's club. So he wiped them out and replaced them with his SS.
But that's why I'm saying that it's like, I think that it does. And like I said, I don't know, like I haven't been to school for a very long time, so I don't know how they're teaching history nowadays. I would hope that it's better. But I do kind of feel like because of the American emphasis on individualism, they do tend to focus on people. Individual people doing this, that, and the other thing without the context of what led up to that person doing that. And I think that's a lot more important than the individual person is.
And what was happening in that society gave that individual person a massive
why did that happen? Like, why did this dude get all these followers at this time? Like, what was going on? Like, what was the context? You don't get a lot of context.
Mustache Man could show up right now in the United States and nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. They wouldn't follow that dude. They'd be like, man, that's a fucking... Because there's millions of those dudes already. Or not millions, but there's a lot of dudes...
I don't know. There's a lot of those
There's a lot of dudes that are like that.
There's a lot of dudes like
They're not going to get power because they can't get any following. But Germany was in a...
But yeah, I just wonder. I've always been more... Because I love history, but I'm always more interested in the larger... societal trends. I think that's a lot more indicative of like what happened than just an individual person.
Yeah.
Because individual persons largely don't have as much power. They have to have some kind of societal backing behind them, some kind of impetus, or it's not going to happen.
Tammy's talking about Genghis Khan. She said she's correcting me saying it's Genghis Khan. Genghis, whatever. They used to call him Genghis Khan, but she said that'd make a good show. It would.
We should, I don't think that's my thing. That probably would be good. Like, Tom would just go...
That was the original Hitler. That bitch there. And the thing is that I would, if I were to fist fight Hitler, you can say you fist fight Hitler or Genghis Khan, say Hitler, because I'd beat Hitler's ass.
I could probably knock Hitler out.
Yeah, probably couldn't beat Genghis Khan's ass.
And I would, if given the opportunity.
Yeah, there wasn't much to him physically.
Pat.
Yeah.
That would be really satisfying.
Yeah.
But right in his little mustache.
Yeah.
When he was like yelling and stuff, I'd just be like, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
But punching Nazis.
Shut this shit down.
Punching Nazis. It's always the fun thing to do. But yeah, sorry. I saw a video the other day of like some weird old dude went to a punk show in where was it? I want to say it was Colorado, but it might not have been. And he went to a punk show and he had like a red like SS shirt on. And I was like, do you know where you're going? Because punks do not like Nazis. and they will beat your ass. And so there's a video of like several people at this punk show. It was like a big outdoor festival or something like that, just beating this dude's ass, just knocking him over. I would have like beat him harder. They let him live, which is nice, but I was just like, I'm just heartened to see, as an old person who kind of grew up in that scene, I'm just like, I'm glad that the storied tradition of punks punching Nazis in the face is still alive and well in the younger generation. So yeah, keep fucking doing that. Just punch them out. I mean, they got to learn somehow. So yeah, that kind of that video made me happy. So yeah, all right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show this evening. I didn't even have that much information, and it seemed like it went on and on. I guess I know why, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so hopefully you guys found this interesting. Thank you so much for all of your super chats this evening. You guys have been very generous tonight, which is always nice. Like I said, we do the show because it's fun, but it's always nice to be appreciated in that way. And so yeah, hopefully you guys have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow. We will be back on Friday night for our fun sidetrack show, where we're going to talk about all kind of bullshit and probably get drunk as fuck. More drunk than now, maybe. And
you want to get something to eat?
It's up to you.
Where do you want to go? You want to go to Circle K, get something to eat?
Well, nothing's open except for Circle K.
Okay, let's go.
Are you going to pay?
Well, doesn't it close at 11?
It does close at 11.
We got 15 minutes. We won't make it, but we can
We're
get sandwiches.
not going to make it.
We can get sandwiches up there though.
We're not going to make it. Yeah, but we could buy other stuff at Circle K. All right, so we're going to go get something to eat. Yeah. So have a good day. Like I said, we'll see you again Friday night for the sidetrack show. Thank you very much. Good night.